Look closely, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Millionth Show. My name is James, joined once again by Henry, and today we are talking about Saw 6, released in 2009, with a running time uncut version of 1 hour 32 minutes. Henry, what did you make of this one?
I had the same fears as you at the end of the last one, thinking that it peaks at Saw 5 and it doesn't kind of goes downhill a bit. But those fears were subsided by this film because this was actually really good, much better than I even remember because I remembered very little from it.
Mm.
And I got a bit mixed up with both Saw 5 and Saw 7. But I thought this was a very creative film. They hadn't run out of anything. I don't think they'd run out of steam by this point at all. And I think especially one of the biggest strengths is the fact that they use people in the traps who you really don't you're not really gonna feel bad for the guy
Mm.
who's in the rat race in this. Like,
Yeah.
especially as you can see on the one on the screen here, this is a very good trap as well. I think the traps in this are pretty creative. So
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing as you in terms of. I mean, we did close episode 5 for the review of Saw 5 with the sentiment that, like, yeah, it's kind of. I said this is where the franchise peaks, but actually, I was wrong. I mean, I'm not saying it's like peaking now, like with Saw 6, but Saw 6 is really good. I was kind of surprised because this is one where I usually watch the Saw films. I think like when I watched them before, I kind of get to about Saw 5 and then I'm like run out of steam. I'm like I can't. I'll just leave the rest, sort of thing. So
mm.
Saw 6 isn't one I've seen so many times, even though I remember it well because of iconic traps such as the carousel trap. Um, but yeah, it was definitely one where I was like, wow, this is. I really enjoyed the rewatch value that it had for me. I watched it on last night, so I was actually, and the plot for this one I think was fantastic. It
Mm.
was genuinely intriguing. This is where maybe because, like you said, the actual victims in this one are actually predators themselves in a
Yeah, you
metaphorical
can't.
sense, right?
Yeah,
So
you
it's
can
like these
invest.
people, yeah, like you say, they're all contributing to. It's like and this is what in theory all of the well, not all of them. It's interesting, but this is one where yeah, definitely you're kind of like, well, yeah, you're not really feeling too sorry for these people, you know?
Yeah, because like in Saw 5 as well, there was the whole kind of this feels like a more evolved version of that kind of conspiracy between these people and the guy who worked for the Herald. Like
Yeah.
that was like you
Yeah,
didn't
that was kind
really
of because
care
that
so
was like
much
what
about
was
it.
that? That was like how what do they
Yeah,
call it? Property scam, right? And it's
yeah,
like
yeah. Because
yeah,
one
but
one
it
didn't.
didn't feel attached to John Kramer or anything. That was just like just random people that he just found out
Yeah,
about something. It didn't, you know. Whereas what I like about this one is it's actually personal to John Kramer, and it almost makes him the protagonist in this film,
Hmm.
right? And these guys are the antagonists. You know, usually not usually, but it's a tough one. I mean, it's hard to ever call John Kramer a protagonist, but in this one, this is probably the closest he gets to being that.
Yeah, because especially
Previously, he's like we've seen police officers, we've seen Jeff with like who's just like a deadbeat dad basically, and Mark Donnie Wahlberg's character as well, Eric Matthews. So and then Saw 5, yeah, this is yeah,
yeah,
like I
Saw
said, it's
5 is
just a
just the
bit more
Mark
of a
Hoffman
developed
show.
version of what happens in Saw 5 in terms of that kind
Yeah,
of in terms of the traps sort of storyline.
yeah, but no one's gonna feel sorry for William the
Yeah,
health insurance executive. Like they did some good
actually,
casting
his
as well because
title
the
in this
guy,
is senior
yeah,
vice president.
senior vice president. Yeah,
Yeah,
he could have had a business card, but
yeah, could have.
anyway.
So yeah. Anyway, it was interesting for me. We had a new director for this one, a chap called Kevin Gretert. Sorry, I've definitely mispronounced that, but
Good.
anyway, yeah, I think he did. Salute him. Did a very good job on this one.
Hmm.
With a budget of 11 million and a box office of only 68 million. Henry, this is the
Ooh.
lowest grossing Saw film so far,
Well,
and the second
that's still a lot of
lowest to
money they made
date.
from it.
Sorry.
That's still a lot of money they made from it, though.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's a testament to how well all the other ones did. But yeah, to date, it's the second lowest grossing Saw film. So that was a bit of a surprise for me. But I suppose by the time you've got into a sixth,
Hmm.
installment of a franchise. It's kind
Yeah,
of,
normally people expect them to be trilogies, but
yeah, this is like a double trilogy at the moment.
hmm.
But yeah, I think there's a lot to get stuck into with this one. I did, and what I will say as well, not only is the plot with the, let's say victims, like,
Yeah,
I mean, this is the way the Saw films work, right? There's traditionally two storylines going on. There's
yeah.
one
So
with like,
your A plot and your B plot.
right, and the A plot, well, it's hard to tell. Well, it depends which way you look at it, which one's the
Yeah,
A
what
and
do
the
you
B plot.
prioritize
But
more, the
either
Mark
way,
Hoffman
the
show or
trap
this?
plot, let's say, is very, very strong. And also the Hoffman plot, or the slash Kramer plot, is it? Or it usually turns
Yeah,
out, is also super interesting. Like, it's like, yeah, it's really like, really actually like has you gripped as you go along, going along. So I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, man,
I
I like.
I always like to know it in my mind as the Mark Hoffman show because it just like sounds right to me.
Yeah,
Because I
we
mean,
get plenty of Mark Hoffman in this one again.
yeah,
Really enjoyed it. I think this is. Should we get into it then? I guess.
yep.
So we open with the Scales Trap. Now, if I cast my mind back to my first ever exposure to these films, which was, as you know, Henry, back in like when I was 12 or something
Yeah,
in
when you're way too
chemistry
young for
class.
this shit.
That famous chemistry class that I was in. This kid, he came to me, and I think this is the first trap he described to me. Because I remember it, and it was funny because he was like, "Oh, yeah, there's this fat guy, and he's like cutting off bare fat, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, that sounds sick." So I'm like, yeah, I always that always stayed in my head, and it kind of intrigued me into watching these ones. Of course, then I wasn't watching the whole film; I was just watching individual traps on YouTube.
Yeah, that's what they mean about, word of mouth and so on.
It really was, yeah. And this one was like, this was really, this is a brutal trap. This is like, and I think throughout the whole film we have some really really psychologically interesting traps. This is in previous films we've had traps which are like just pretty one dimensional in terms of you have to make a sacrifice and bang. These films are all about. Sorry, this film and these traps are all about, how much of a sacrifice you're prepared to make and is more worthy and stuff like this. It's like, it's super interesting, and I think, absolute credit to the creators of this film for being able to add even more complexity to these traps. I mean, this one, for example, where the woman in it, she has to, the moment when she's looking at her arm, she puts her arm on the table, and she's like sizing up how much she can. She was like,
Yeah,
fingers, no; wrist, no; elbow. She's like, bang, how much do I need to cut off? And it's like,
yeah, and the other guys, he's just
it's
going at
horrific.
yeah, because he makes a rookie mistake, man. He starts cutting off like at his stomach level, which is one of the worst places to go for.
Oh, really?
Um, but the thing that I never understood with the lady, she decides to first start cutting at like the forearm or something, and like it's like sawing it with a knife, and then she eventually does figure out, oh yeah, what if I just chop it off with this butcher like knife here?
Yeah.
But then I
Because
don't
that
know.
first knife wasn't even serrated, was it? It was just like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like
yeah,
your average. I don't know. I would have been hacking away at it personally rather than just trying to saw it off.
right, right. But yeah, this is a really, really fucked up trap, man. Because it's like, yeah, these two people, and yeah, the fat guy, he's like, well, obviously he's going to cut off the fat. It's kind of like, and she's there, and she's like looking at him like he's got a lot of fat, man. And she looks at her stomach; she's got a flat stomach, so she's like, oh shit. And then bang goes for the arm. So super messed up. There's a really good effect I wanted to shout out. I'm beginning to notice these things now where they're like, it's just a very little detail that they don't have to do, but when you notice
Mhm.
it, you do appreciate they went that extra mile. Because as she's trying to saw off her arm with the knife, her hand moves. She's moving her hand as well. So it's
Yeah,
like, did you notice that? I was like,
yeah,
that was like quite impressive. I was like, wow, this like the prop they had there was like very good. The way they did
yeah.
that.
That's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty like disgusting though. Like him moving your hand while you're sawing your arm off, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
And these people were in there as well because they were involved in a
loan shark
loan
squad.
prop, yeah, sort of loan shark. But I found it interesting the timing of that as well because this film was released in 2009, and this is obviously directly after the property crash, right? So
Hmm.
maybe these people were like the first dominoes to fall in that in
Yeah,
that.
yeah. This is like, yeah, this film was like, it feels like it's, you know, I wouldn't say pandering, but specifically made especially for Americans. You know, they got to do with health
Yeah,
insurance. You
yeah,
know,
you're right, man.
these
It's funny
guys,
watching this.
man.
Is like you're right. Funny watching. It's always funny watching this one. Is like English people that have like NHS and like all that stuff, and it just reminds you that like how messed up the healthcare system is over there, and like I think this is a little bit like dramatized, obviously, because I don't. I read in the trivia there's like something to do with you can't actually void someone, and even the health insurance companies they can't void someone's claim for something. They can choose not to fund it, but I think it's a
Mm.
technicality which isn't. But either way, it's like
Yeah,
it's brutal, man. It's like it's really cool, and being like healthy young English chaps as we are, I don't think we've ever had to worry about our health too much so far in life. Thank God.
yeah.
But um, for an American watching this, I mean, and we're already like, we're already like not wanting to see these people suffer, but we're kind of like, they kind of, you're not too sympathetic for them.
Mm.
Whereas imagine being like Americans watching this as well, and if someone has been involved with this kind of thing, how much like they're on John
Mm.
Kramer's side as well. I
Yeah,
think that's
this is
really
like,
interesting how it pulls you towards this, like it pulls you towards like as the franchise progresses more and more, you kind of like almost they're allowing you to align yourself with John Kramer. I think that's really interesting.
yeah, true. Yeah, it's definitely appealing to
Although in
some
this
people.
case, it's Hoffman. No, it is John Kramer, isn't it? What we're talking about. Um. Anyway,
Slightful
so
there.
yeah, man. Yeah. So anyway, she ends up getting the axe out. She's like chopping her arm off, and then puts it in the funnel, and it's enough to make her survive. And then the other guy who buys it by like like those like the
Drills go into his temple.
drills into his temples. Yeah, man, pretty
Yeah,
brutal.
I didn't. Yeah, as well. Like, like John Kramer didn't have to like those drills could have like killed them at the end, but like they want to drill part way into her skull. Like, come on, man. Or maybe it's just to tell them that this shit's real. You know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting one because I mean, could have maybe would he have bled out by the amount he chopped off? I don't know. Like it's just
Oh,
super brutal, man.
yeah.
So yeah, that's the opening for Saw
Good
Six.
open, and also the music goes hard in this intro as well. I will say.
Yeah.
The
Um, yeah, really, really horrific. And obviously, as always, we're going to rank these traps against each other at the end. And I would be, I mean, there are some
lot of
really
fucked up
messed
ones.
up ones as we go along, man. But this is really like so far. I mean, this is what really fascinates me about the Saw franchise. They keep managing to outdo themselves. They find new ways of just like these horrific traps. And when you consider the fact so far, all of these films have been released within 1 year of each other. So, and obviously they have to complete filming and everything, or pre and they have to complete production by a certain time, right? You would assume about halfway through the year, so 6 months. So they've only really got 6 months to sit down and dream up all these kind of traps,
Mm.
and even less than that actually, because you've got to write the scripts and everything before. I mean, you can still make tweaks as you're filming,
Yeah,
but
and
generally
you got to
speaking, they have to
figure out
have
what's going
these
on as well.
they have to know what they're going to go into, and it's impressive to me how creative they get with them. I mean, the traps in this film are very creative. Well, most of them, but especially the scales trap. It's like brutal.
Yeah, it's like the whole pound of flesh sort of deal in that.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
right. That's true. Anyway, so then we cut to basically the end of Saw 5.
yeah,
Uh,
literally, you get to see the whole ending of Saw 5
yeah.
again, which
Uh,
is,
yeah, and then Hoffman comes back out of the glass coffin,
yeah,
glass
back from
box,
the dead, one could say.
one could say. And oh man, you see like the crushed, pulped
Oh,
body of Strom, like
yeah,
it's like hanging
perforated
there, and then
skull.
it like and the sound design there as it drops to the ground, man, it's
Oh.
like it's disgusting, man. Um, so yeah, and then he just looks up and he's like, oh okay. So that
Yeah,
was
it's just like, yeah, just another day in the office.
yeah. Um, and then then we meet Senior Vice President William. I forget his surname, but
Yeah, I could never really catch a second name.
Yeah, but well, it's hello, William. So we'll go with that. That's how John Kramer chooses to address him.
Yeah.
So yeah, we see him in his like, in his office and all that, and he's got his like, team there, and he's got his piranha tank and
Yeah, I
whatever.
noticed
You
that
just see he's like a
immediately.
piece of shit, man, because he's talking to some lawyer
His
or
wife.
whatever, and he's like, oh
Yeah.
well.
Oh yeah.
She's like, oh, what are you gonna do? This guy is gonna die because you turned him down. And it's like, oh, it's a scandal. He's like, oh, I'll just tell him that X, Y, Z, and he doesn't give a shit. He's
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to,
he gives the official answer. And he's on the phone to his wife as
yeah,
well, being like,
cheating on his wife.
well, I can't make it. I've got to meet with legal. I know
Yeah,
it's your birthday, but I just need to make sure the audience knows I'm a real cunt.
exactly. This guy's a proper suit. He's a proper twat, and he's just a piece of shit that like
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think is symbolizing and embodying a lot of like that kind of profile of whatever like it's kind of it gets a lot of people on side in terms of that he's like a proper capitalist sort of thing, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, but he's also, well, as we go on to discover, he's also a complete pussy as well. So you
Yeah,
know,
and he something else I want to mention when he's talking, because basically him, the lawyer, he's kind of like running through what he'd say in court or
yeah.
whatever, or to basically dismiss this thing. And all the things he mentions is that the guy, I don't know, he lied on his application, or he rephrased it and he says, those are the rules.
Yeah,
As
that's right. That's right.
part of his mantra. And something I also notice is the fact that this is Source 6, and the his team, the dog pit, they call it, the ones who basically screw everyone over. There are 6 of them, so I can't possibly
Well,
imagine where they're
absolutely.
gonna be in this.
I also
So
wanted to shout out. This is like such a small detail that I never noticed until my most recent viewing of this film. Was as he at the very end of this scene, as he walks out the office, he passes the cleaner, right?
yeah.
And he we come back to him later. But
Hmm.
I never noticed that, and I was like, oh shit! Like I just noticed him right there, and I was like, oh okay, so that was
Hmm.
cool. Um, okay, so then we go back to Ericsson. Ericsson from Saw 5, he's back, and
Yeah, he calls
he's at the scene of the crime
yeah, he
where
calls up he calls up Hoffman, right, doesn't he?
yep.
Like, and the funniest thing I saw is like the when you see Hoffman here, he's just literally like relaxing by listening to the screams of the damned on his like on his recording, man.
Yeah,
And he's like not pulling any face, he's just like,
yeah.
right,
It's just
right, need to
like
go back to my
Patrick
second
Bateman
job.
with headphones, like listening to
Yeah,
that.
literally.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
So yeah, so Ericsson's at the crime scene. I believe he's at the scales trap, I think.
yeah,
Um,
the latest and
and
greatest.
yeah, and he's found Agent Strom's prints all over the place. And then we get our first plot twist straight away. Agent
Mhm.
Perez is alive and well, isn't she?
Somehow, yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit weird for me. It's kind of like, I mean, I was always suspicious of the fact, like,
Yeah, how would
you
she
know,
have died from
so
that? But
first of all, in Saw, when did she die? It's Saw 3, I think, actually, or Saw 4. It's,
no, it was Saw 4, because Saw 4 and 3 were happening at the same time, and then Strom ends up in
oh
Saw
yeah, 3 was
3.
the Jeff one. Okay, so
Yeah,
4, okay. Well, I just remembered by that. So
yeah.
Saw 4, okay, so that always was suspicious to me. She doesn't, because that Billy the Puppet shoots her in the face, but
Yeah,
it's
she
not
doesn't
like,
die on
it's not
camera,
a
so it's just,
bullet. Yeah, it's not like a gun wound. It's kind of like, it's almost like a kind of a grenade effect, right? It's just like some shrapnel
yeah,
goes
like
in the
bits of
face or
shrapnel,
something,
yeah.
which is a bit
I
weird. I
don't
don't
know.
really know
Anyway.
what that was.
Well,
It's
she's
not
kind of
even.
like I do notice they went to the effort of putting like a couple like you can see like surgery scars on her, like
Little
on her
scars,
face.
yeah. And then obviously in Saw 5, we see her like deathbed supposedly, a
Yeah, just
pillow
a bunch
covered
of
in
blood
blood
on it.
because that
Yeah,
always
yeah,
happens in a hospital, and it's kind of implied that she's dead. But I was always suspicious of the fact we don't get that properly clarified.
yeah,
So it's
true.
like,
But
I
that
mean,
was
you
a good.
learn to kind of by the time you watch these Saw films, you kind of learn to like not take everything as it seems, right? So.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's still like
and
bang, she's just like there alive and well. She's like, literally just like perfect. So
yeah,
it's like,
and
oh,
Hoffman's like, oh,
nothing
okay.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hoffman shits himself, but
Yeah, yeah. Great acting
Mm.
by Costas once again, man. Because Hoffman, he's like constantly shitting himself in this film. He's constantly bricking it, but like also putting on a cool face as well, and kind of he
Yeah, he's
always
got like he's
yeah
yeah, it's like he's got like the face like the front mask on, and he's got like the shitting himself mask on at the same time.
yeah, and
But
it's
it's like
kind of
he's
like
somehow showing it through.
yeah, it's so subtle there, and you're kind of like wow, because as obviously us as an audience, we
Mm.
know that he's like he's obviously he's the one doing all this, but they don't. But they're and he's trying, and we've all been in that situation when we've done something we shouldn't have, and then we're trying to act like not suspicious. Even if you've
Yeah,
like farted or something, right, and it was silent and deadly, yeah, and you're like trying to act like it wasn't you. It's like everyone's been there, right? Like everyone's been there where they're trying to act like, oh, it wasn't me, sort of thing,
yeah.
but you're trying to not act suspicious. So like when you see someone else doing that, you're kind of like, oh, and then you're trying to. It's like that. Oh, it's so good, man.
Yeah, and I love
Um,
the this is one thing that like I know it wouldn't have made any narrative sense in this scene, but like because like he's going on about like oh to Erickson, he's like oh what the fuck man, you should have let me know that
oh
she
yeah,
was
right.
alive or something, like don't keep secrets from me. And he's like well we'll have full disclosure, we can work together. And I was really thinking he might have just refused the handshake like proper Sigma style, but
Oh
he goes in for it anyway. Like he
yeah,
caves just to not immediately bait himself out.
right.
Yeah.
Um, so then, as he leaves the crime scene or the police office, this journalist comes up to him, and we get a good line here.
Sensationalist journalist, may I say?
Yeah, that's right. We get a great
Maybe
line
it's
here.
another. Might be
Is
another
this one of your
writer.
Sigma quotes, Henry?
Yeah,
Where
it
it
is
goes,
actually.
where she goes, "Oh, I know
I,
about more than John Craig." What did she say?
she says, "I know more about John Kramer than you might think," and then
Oh yeah, that's right. He's like, I doubt
he
that.
just leans against the door and says, "Somehow I doubt that."
I love it. I know more about John Kramer than you think. It's like somehow I doubt that. Yeah. No, he doesn't even say something. I think he just says, "I doubt
No,
that."
no, he says he just says
Ah,
somehow I doubt that. Like
is that one of your? Are we going to nominate that as a Sigma quote?
there's a nomination right there.
Good. Okay, we're agreed there.
It's like it's
Um,
also just the acting he does with it. He's like
yeah.
just so like he's not even
Right.
hiding
Right.
the fact he
Right.
just thinks she's moron. But like anyway,
Yeah. Um, and then he goes over to visit the victim of the scales trap. And we have a really interesting bit of dialogue here because this is, I think, the only time apart from Amanda Young, really, where we see someone that survived a trap and then they get a bit of screen time afterwards to
yeah,
kind
and
of
they're essentially talking to their torturer.
yeah, and she doesn't know it, right? But I just
Mm.
the conversation is so interesting because Hoffman goes
Yeah,
over to
because
her, and he's like, um,
Hoffman's Hoffman's not even trying to like pretend he's not Jigsaw. Like at this point, he's just like, "Oh yeah, did you learn your lesson?"
yeah,
Like you put there.
it's like
Did
yeah,
John
and
Kramer
did
do this
and
to you?
he doesn't even say that, does he? He's kind of like, she was like, oh, we deserve to be there. He's trying to teach us a lesson, and he goes like, and did you? It's like wow, it's like damn. So
He's like,
you know,
yeah, and then but she makes a good point. She's like, what the fuck was I supposed to learn? My arm's gone now, man. Like,
yeah, man. She's like waving the little like stump that's left, man. It's like, damn, man.
yeah,
So yeah, she's like screaming at him. But that was really
yeah, but
interesting. I thought
he
there was
just
like
like
there was a
doesn't
lot in
respond.
that scene where it's like really interesting bit of dialogue and insight into Hoffman there.
Yeah, he
Um,
just like doesn't even respond. Though. He just like okay, and then
he just
turns around
backs
and
out.
leaves.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. The
Um,
other thing that needs to mention, also that reporter who he like
oh
snubs,
yeah.
like wants to find Jill Tuck so she can
Oh yeah. Right.
be more
Um,
sensationalist.
that's
Yeah,
right. And yeah, then we do actually cut to Jill Tucker herself.
in
She's
her
having a
house.
glass of wine, looking out the window, looking all beautiful as usual.
Got a nice
And
apartment, got to say.
oh yeah, very nice. Well, she's obviously got the retirement, the no, not retirement.
The
Whatever,
rights to
life
like all the
insurance. Yeah, life
yeah,
insurance. And,
he's
you
got the
know,
rights like the
Forbes
rights
top
and
100 John Kramer.
yeah, it's probably the what was it the rights to like all the John Kramer like Time magazine stuff.
Exactly, man.
It's
He
on
John Kramer's
everything.
on. He's on Forbes 100, man. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, he's like, yeah,
yeah,
he's like probably on the front of the Sun like every day or something. I don't know.
yeah, man. So yeah, she's cashed in on that check.
Yeah, they probably made if it was this year, they probably made like Jigsaw NFTs or something like that.
Yeah, man. And yeah, and she's stood there and she's got on a TV. It's really like really quite like powerful moment because you see this. She's watching the tape of you know,
Gideon.
Gideon, sort of the unborn baby, and John Kramer's then. This is before everything happened. So like, and like it's Tobin Bell then. He's like a happy old man, you know, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, you know, like what would have been. Do you know what I mean? It's kind
Hmm.
of like wow, you know. It's a sad moment because he's there and he's like I think it's pretty much the first and only time you see genuine smile on
Hmm.
John Kramer's face in the entire franchise, right?
Yeah, as well, because like, and as well, you feel bad because she's the only one left, and she knows
Yeah.
the shit's still going on, and she has to be part of it until she gets the way out, if that ever happens for her. And like, it's not just like, oh well, John suffered, and I mean, like she said in the previous one, I lost him too. I mean, literally, I had to go through the physical suffering of that too.
Mhm.
But then, yeah, he's dead, and now she's got to deal with it herself.
The thing about Jill Tuck, though, I mean, for me, is the actress for her doesn't really convince me as someone that's like been through that kind of suffering. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's lost her son, she's lost her baby, and her husband's gone mental. So,
Mm. And is
but
also gone.
she always looks like a bit of a villain as well. You know, she's always looking a bit suspicious, like she knows. You know, I'm always a little bit confused by that, and she doesn't ever seem like someone that's she doesn't look like she lost the baby. I mean, in the
Well, I
moment, she's
think
like crying and stuff. Yeah, but I don't see her as someone that's like sad or upset or anything. She's like just always like I don't know.
Well, I
Do
don't
you know
know
what I'm
if you
saying?
apply the same thing to John Kramer, like you would never have guessed just by his acting that he also lost a child.
No, but you
Um,
can definitely tell with him that something's motivating him. Something's like he's not. There is pain in his performance, right? There is like there is in his point of view, he's a hero, right? He's like the hero of his own story.
yeah, well, I think with her, especially given the amount of attention that's been on her and all of the interrogations and investigations she's been through, I think she demonstrates a kind of the um capacity of someone who doesn't let on everything that she knows, like she does with Hoffman Leia.
Hmm.
I think she's kind of learned just to basically play like with her cards as close to her chest as possible. Um, that's how I see it throughout this film.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just with her, I just don't, I never. There's like I never see that kind of extra emotional dimension to her, which we see with so many of these other actors, right? I mean, they're all able to convey like multiple emotions in one moment. I think she's just a little bit limited as an actress, perhaps. I mean, it doesn't really hold back the film, but I just think her scenes are like her character in general is quite. There could have been more to it. I mean, even Amanda. I think Amanda was more impactful in her. You remember Amanda. Jill Tuck's just kind of there as like just to get the story moving along as an
Yeah.
extra character rather than someone that's like memorable or interesting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess it's definitely not as good as it could have been, but I don't
That's
think
what I mean.
it's not
But
that bad to be fair.
yeah, yeah, I suppose. I mean, just for such a crucial character in the story, I think perhaps because I mean she makes her first appearance in Saw 3 just as a little flashback, right? So
Hmm.
I assume at that point they weren't expecting her to play such a major role later on down the line. So they probably just
Yeah.
saw and just like, okay, well, it doesn't matter too much. And then when it came to actually giving her more to do, it was kind of like,
Yeah, they were trying to think of something.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
anyway.
but anyway. So
Yeah,
anyway, she's
yeah, she
lost
has
his
a
baby
flashback
tape,
to
and obviously,
the
sorry,
jigsaw. Yeah, there she has like a flashback to the jigsaw box opening.
right, and she has 6 envelopes in there. So obviously saw six,
Mhm.
6 envelopes. That was cool. And then we get Hoffman. He has a flashback back to the morgue where John Kramer was had his autopsy, right?
Yeah, the beginning and end of Saw 5.
Oh yeah, that's right. Is it the beginning of
Yeah.
Saw 5?
Yeah. It's when they're opening up John Kramer.
No, that's the beginning of Saw 4, mate.
Okay, never mind then.
Saw 5
Yeah, you're
opens
right,
up
you're right.
with, yeah, of
Beginning and
course.
ending of Saw 4.
Um, no, it's the opening of Saw 4 and the ending of Saw 5.
Yeah, this is the one
Yeah.
downside when it comes to using
Anyway,
the ending as the
mate, I'm gonna
beginning
have
of
to like
one.
read out the rankings later. So,
Yeah, true.
um, Anyway, so he's back in the morgue, and Ericsson's there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, look, these jigsaw pieces were cut with a different knife, one with a serrated edge, and this
Mhm.
one wasn't." And it's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
Uh,
I like that though because it's a good callback to John Kramer's advice to him in the previous film, saying you should use tempered steel because of the basically makes a fine cut rather than the serrated edge.
yeah, that's right, because he's like a scalpel. Yeah, it's like a
Hmm.
surgical cut rather than
Certainly.
Hoffman just kind
Yeah,
of
he just
butchering
used
pieces.
whatever. That's why his work is inferior,
Yeah, yeah, interesting detail. Yeah, exactly.
which
Um,
why he asks immediately afterwards, "Are you in it for the long haul?"
yeah, yeah. Then later on, so then we cut to Jill. She meets with Hoffman. I think for the first time we see them two in the same room, and she gives him 5 envelopes
Yeah, I
at the
mean,
clinic, right?
yeah. I just wanted to mention beforehand, before we
Oh yeah,
move on quickly, the reason why the serrated edge is important because the only other person who had this serrated edge cut out of them was the one who was the killer of Hoffman's
sister.
sister.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like, oh, why would Strom do this? Because he's trying to frame Strom for it, and it's like, I don't know.
yeah, right. Um, so then, yeah, we cut over to Jill and Hoffman at the clinic,
Hmm.
at her clinic, because he's just in the waiting room, you know. So and then
Yeah.
she walks in, sees him, gives him 5 envelopes. Um, so they have this, and then he's like, "Yeah, I work alone." Blah blah blah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I have full control over the game and so on and so forth.
yeah. And she's, you know, what about John's will? And he's like, "Yeah, whatever. He's dead." Um, And yeah, and then what is really cool, man, as Hoffman leaves the room, she turns over and then it becomes like a John Kramer flashback. He's there sat in
Yeah.
the room. So cool, man. Although I don't really like this because it's just John Kramer, Toby Bell seem really out of character in this, you know? Like he
Yeah,
gets
it's
way too
like,
animated and angry when there's not really, you know, that kind of
yeah, it didn't feel like,
didn't sit right with me for some reason.
yeah, it didn't feel appropriate for him to be like, he's like shout like wake up like
Yeah.
randomly in the middle of.
You
I
never
don't
see
know. He
John
wasn't
Kramer
like that
get that
before.
animated ever, really. The most animated you've ever seen him is like,
Killing is distasteful
yeah,
to me.
exactly, literally. And even that is like still, yeah, exactly. This is like he's actually shouting like he's just like a pissed off dad, you know. And it's kind of like
Yeah, really.
it doesn't, you know. It's like yeah, like so he's stuck in a traffic jam and he's shouting at someone else. It's kind of like you know, it
Yeah,
doesn't really,
I
yeah,
see what you
it's
mean
a
there.
bit strange, a bit out of character, you know. It just felt like that was like some kind of rushed like last day of filming, like okay, let's just get this done in one take, whatever. You know, it didn't feel right to me, but you know,
I don't know. Well,
um,
you also get Sean is
yeah. Now this is
coming in
really
for
cool.
the
Yeah,
coming in for the Saw paycheck again.
right. Yep. Because he points. He's like, she's like, oh, there's no evidence that this works, and then he points, and he does like this strange point where he's like, not even pointing. He's kind of just like doing this or whatever.
Yeah, I
And
don't
then
know
you
what
look
he was
over,
doing.
and bang, Amanda is there. Shawnee Smith is back.
I don't know how like in this like really normal room she could have been hiding there and she didn't see it out of her like peripheral
Right.
vision.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I just
I don't know. I mean,
it's just shock value, and it's like wow,
no way.
it worked for me because I kind of like I said, Saw 6 is one of those. I remember what happened. I remember the trap plot very well, obviously the carousels and all
Hmm.
that. But in terms of the storyline, I was kind of a little bit foggy. So I was like, oh, I forgot Amanda was in this at all. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
that was quite
Um,
cool.
and they have a like fuzzy wig back, you know, as well. So that's always yeah amusing to see. Anyway.
Yeah, and also in this
Yep.
scene, this is another scene where John Kramer's rocking his Flavor Saver beard.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's got a Brazilian on his chin once again. Okay, and then we cut to William.
William in his
He's at the
big
office.
ivory tower.
Yeah, that's right. He's putting in the late hours. He's the last one there. Um,
Yeah, putting in the late hours, denying people coverage.
and what's he doing? He's watching some TV report about John Kramer, I believe. I
I think
think.
he's watching a TV report previously, and in the previous scene, it was just on the TV. And something like I
Yeah.
also noticed, which is like probably completely just coincidental. On another screen, it looked like there was like a logo like rolling onto the center of the screen. Like it reminds me of like someone's head rolling across the floor. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I don't know.
Well, that did happen in Saw 5, so maybe.
Maybe it's a
Um,
very clever Saw 5 reference I just made up.
could be. But but there was something that had him on edge. I mean, not only is he in a dark building, but like there was
Well,
something
he
which
saw
had him on
someone
edge,
running
right?
around. Yeah.
No. I think it was like something about Jigsaw Killer. It's like, oh, he's dead, but the killings are still
Yeah, but
happening, right?
that report was in the
Was it?
previous time we saw him. Yeah.
Okay, I'm well, okay. Um, so anyway, he's on edge anyway, and so he sees like a silhouette over there. Oh, is it the power that goes out?
Yeah, the power
No,
go. It's just
no,
dark
it
as hell
doesn't.
in there, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, he turns over and there's a silhouette of someone holding a gun
Yeah.
by the window. Like, look, super suspicious. I don't know what security guard would do that, but anyway, he's getting down. He's like bricking it,
Yeah, he's got
and
his
then
own pistol.
he pulls out a gun and shoots the security guard. This like random black guy, and it's like, who would do
Feels
that? Like,
bad.
I know
Yeah.
you're fearing for your life, but surely you like turn the light on or like trying to you just don't just shoot
Well,
random.
well, to be fair, if this was in your home, you wouldn't like think twice, would you?
Yeah, but it's your office building. I mean, like
Yeah,
it's your
true.
secure. It's like security guy, man. I
I
mean,
I
come
don't
on.
know, man. You can't see anything in that, and like the fact is also the security guard's going around. He's looking suspicious anyway, because like there's someone else in the room with them. So, which is a
Eh.
good fake out, I thought.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a great fake out for sure. But I just thought it was a little bit like this random security guy died for no reason. It's just kind of a
Yeah.
bit of a shame.
Hope
Um,
he. Well, actually, it's not even a jigsaw thing, so I can't make the fun of. I hope he learned his lesson.
yeah, exactly. But anyway, yeah. But anyway, it turns out, yeah, he does get kidnapped anyway. There is a guy in a pig mask behind him. And then William wakes up in the breath trap.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, this time live from John Kramer on cam.
I love this trap for that reason purely, just because this is the first time ever John Kramer addresses someone like basically face to face over tape. He doesn't use Billy the Puppet. He doesn't use a voice tape. He's like
Mm.
he's there. And this is personal, right? This is personal. He
Yeah.
even says, you know, I bet you're wondering when we were going to see each other again.
Mm.
Um, I just love that recording. This is one of the tracks I
Yeah.
go back to and watch on YouTube just so I can, because you know, there's something about John Crane sat there like in the flesh, you know, just like addressing someone
Mm.
over the tape. It's like this one is personal, and I
Yeah.
really think that's so impactful.
And
Um,
one of the things I like as well with this one is the fact that he's there's often like I wouldn't say like a plot gimmick, but like the way that they're testing something about the person that's like hypocritical that they do. For example, like Jeff's ability to forgive people or something. In
mhm.
this, it's the probability kind of model or theory that this
Yeah,
guy's made on which life is more important than the other one, who should live. Like, and he gives him the power for that as well.
yeah,
Um, and I think it's like it's more how'd you put it? It motivates you more. It's more like something you can get invested in rather than how long can we watch Jeff fucking stand around for before he makes a decision. Like that was just painful. But in this, it's like actually interesting to see like the gears going in this guy's head
right.
on as to what to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, in this trap in particular, William is pitted up against. Oh, actually, before I go on to describe the trap, one other great thing about this tape is there's a throwback to the very first Saw film where he goes, "Look closely," and then you look over, and then it's like he looks over at a dummy with the because he's illustrating the fact that
hmm,
William's got these explosive bracelets
yeah,
on, and then it's like look closely, and then like you see them detonate, and the only time we ever saw that before was in the first Saw trap when Amanda is looking at the reverse bear trap tape. And you see Billy the puppet like say look closely, and then you see the um um
you
I
see
just
the
said
reverse bear trap
mannequin whatever
explode.
being ripped open by the bear traps. I was like, wow, that's really cool. I just really appreciate that as a fan where I'm like, wow, you know, it's just such a cool little throwback there, very subtle.
It's
Um,
also a really creative trap as well. I've got to say, like
yeah, it's an interesting one.
I quite like it.
So
Well, it's a bit unfair, but
William is pitched up against the cleaner, who we briefly glimpsed before, and this man's crime is that he's a smoker, despite
a
having
chain smoker, no
chain
less.
smoker. Yep, having had a long history of heart attacks in his family. so he doesn't appreciate his life, according to John. We also see that William's family is watching.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the trap itself, they have to, they're up against each other with this breath test. So, and then John Kramer's going, yeah, well, according to your formula, this guy, wouldn't qualify for being worthy to live, whatever. So let's see how that goes, whatever. Long story short. And then, so every time they take a breath, the things like go and crush their body. And that's what we get here. So
Yeah, and also this is something unrelated. When I was watching this, I decided to play along, basically, see if I would if I
did
would
you?
survive this. You just got yeah. Next time any of you watch Saw 6, just try and hold your breath during it. It makes it a lot more interactive, so to say.
Oh,
It's a lot harder
maybe
than you
you and me
think.
should recreate this trap, and me being the smoker and you being the non-smoker. We'll see who
Yeah, that's
wins.
a good point, actually. Yeah,
Yeah. So
too
anyway,
broke to smoke, honestly.
yeah. Well, certainly in England.
Hmm.
So anyway, there's like a moment as well where the cleaner, he like pisses himself as well. You're just like,
Yeah,
that's pretty.
thanks.
I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, this guy, yeah, at the end of the day, he's like being killed because he smokes. I mean, I get you on a teacher lesson to appreciate his life, but I mean, that's pretty mad, like anti-smoking campaign there that John Kramer's got going on.
Yeah,
So
well, to be fair,
fair
he's been
play.
picking on druggies for like the last few films, so he needs to
Yeah,
switch up.
well, yeah. Now he's solved drugs. Now he's like eradicated the drug. Now he's like moving down
Yeah,
the ladder.
yeah.
Soon he'll be
Next, he's going to be getting
suing people
people.
with overdue library books.
No,
So
he's going to be getting people for fucking like huffing glue or something.
yeah. Solvent abuse. Yeah, people that wind down the window at petrol stations.
Yeah, people that miss their doctor's appointments on purpose.
Yeah, man. Um. So anyway, then oh yes,
Yeah, the
yeah,
reporter goes to Jill Tuck's
right,
gang.
yeah. The journalist goes to visit Jill, and she wants none of it, and then she gets kidnapped.
Yeah,
So
but Harry, I've got to give credit to this kidnapping scene because like it's it's not the same as the other ones where it's in like a dark room or something and something's like something's tense. It's the fact that basically Jill like closes the door on her,
yep,
and what should be the end of the scene, the camera keeps following her and she's walking around. It's like
yeah,
there's no music. It's like completely silent. Goes in the lift. You think might get caught in the lift. The lift's not working. Walks around and then another corner. Then she gets caught. Like
yeah,
yeah, I think it's pretty good at least in my opinion. It's
yeah,
quite
yeah. It
tense.
draws it out a little bit. Um, okay, so then we cut back to William. He's got himself out of that breath trap, and he takes off the first bracelet, and then
Hmm.
he sees Parsi written on his wrist underneath the, and then he has a flashback
Another
to
flashback.
yeah, he has a flashback to when he met John Kramer at a party. So this is really cool, really interesting, man, because he's like remembering this guy, and it's like he's discussing the formula,
Mm.
and John goes, so essentially you decide who deserves to live and who
Yeah.
doesn't, and he's saying, your formula doesn't take into account the most important factor, the will to live,
Mm.
which I think is super cool, and
Yeah.
I think that's why this guy's called William. Like in the film, I think it's like will, the will to live. I think there's a little bit of just, I mean, it's not a
Maybe.
big deal, but I think
I
there's
know.
a little bit of symbolism there. I think.
Yeah. Something else I'd like to point out. I don't know if this is intentional, but sometimes the character William, when he's talking about like stuff like this probability formula, I'm not really choosing who lives and dies and so on. Like he's denying whenever he's being ungenuine or like ingenuine or like more slimy. He either fidgets or he's like itching his nose when there's no point.
Oh,
Uh,
really? I didn't
yeah,
notice
which
that.
is like supposedly at least I think like it like
Yeah,
something
that's
to do
supposed to
with
be an
touching your nose
indication.
or something is like something to
Yeah,
do with lying
yeah,
or at
that's
least being dishonest.
yeah.
Anyway,
So they say. Um, and then so then he arrives at his next test, which is well, I call it. I've got it written down here as the plank trap.
I
By
call it
the
the
way,
razor noose trap.
oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. I mean, what. By the way, what's quite interesting, I don't know if you noticed. I only noticed upon this time of viewing it, but this all takes place in an abandoned zoo, which is quite interesting.
Oh no, I didn't
You
know that.
noticed that? Like I thought it was just like one room or something because in this you can tell like because of the window he's looking through you can kind of see it reminded me of a zoo like in that but this if you look at the signs and stuff around that it is like oh zoo exit and stuff like that zoo entrance or
Didn't
yeah
I
so
didn't I didn't know that. It's actually
yeah
quite
it's pretty
interesting.
cool. So anyway yeah this trap there's little old Doris there you know on one of the planks and then there's a strapping young man on the
Mm.
other one and called Alan.
With no
And
family, so
yeah, that's right. So he has to
no one
choose.
important.
Yeah, right. So he has to choose. Okay, so Alan's like, you know, according to his formula, this is what it all comes back to. You know, Alan's the one that deserves to live because he's young and healthy, and like Doris isn't. But Doris is. I'm calling her
Has got
Doris. That's not her
family.
name, but I'm just, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
she looks like someone called Doris.
yeah, exactly. And but she's got a family, you know. So
Mm.
like, whereas Alan will disappear without a blip.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I love the things as well. Like like Jigsaw's got like a fucking like an album slideshow of both of
yeah.
them. To be like, this guy's got no one. She's got look at all these cute family photos, you know. And a nice detail I think is the fact that he's holding the two handles. If he
Hmm.
lets go of one, one dies and so on.
Hmm.
But he's holding two of them. He's quite literally being torn between the two, you know, like the decision.
Interesting.
Um, and something else I'd like to shout is they have Billy the puppet as well in this. Like
Yep.
he's like as if like a demonstration of the trap where he slams into the wall and then he gives his little speech. No longer on tape. It's like the opposite, you know. John Kramer on tape and Billy Puppet live.
Hmm.
And then like he gives his instruction, then he just like goes up into the ceiling, you know, while laughing.
Yeah. Yep. Almost a little bit reminiscent of, and I think this came out the same year, The Dark Knight.
Yeah, actually, come think of it, you're right.
Ah, there you go. So yeah, he's been torn between the two. I always wanted to see a trap like this. I mean, this is the closest we get to it, but where someone's like being, you know, I mean, my kind of the trap sort of trap I would think of as like the you know where your limb gets your arms get torn off, like you know
Hmm.
ripped from the limb if you like if it's stretched enough, like it just gets pulled out
Yeah.
of its socket. I don't think that would happen in this case, but. Um, yeah, and it's an interesting one because it looks like he's about to let her go, but he's so obviously going to let Alan go. I think no one was
Yeah.
really surprised by that. Or were you? I don't know. Like, what did you think? What did you
I
expect?
always thought he was gonna let Alan go. So I mean, as in let him be
Right, right,
killed.
right, right. Yeah, well, that's exactly what
Because
happens.
the whole point is it's meant to show he's being a hypocrite. He wouldn't like, you
Yeah,
know.
that's right. That's true. Um,
Imagine if like he actually went by the formula the entire time, and it's like
hmm,
John Crane, well, he's dead, but then be like, oh, okay then.
yeah,
He's a man of his word, even if he is you know, terrible.
yeah. So that's that trap. Alan dies. Well, I always wondered how the hell does Doris get
Yeah,
out of
how's she
there
meant to
after?
get it? Well, I
It's just
assume it's
like,
not
yeah,
like a
find a
bomb.
way out. And then she's there, like, bound and gagged, like, with razor noose around her neck, you know? It's
Yeah,
like,
I don't know. Well, I assume that like, well, now the fact that she's free, like her hands are free, she probably like, uncoil it or something. Don't know how
and
you
then,
do it. Huh?
like, falls into the abyss below or
Yeah, but
whatever.
it's not like a bottomless pit. It is a zoo after all. Like the only problem, the thing that would kill you is the actual noose, you know. But
Well, I
once the
guess,
noose
I
is
don't know.
gone,
I just wanted to see, like, at least, like, the door opens up so she can walk back out or something, you know? Like, I thought she just
yeah,
stood
it
there,
goes
like, you
like
know, like,
it goes
always,
to a bit
that's
that he
just a little
hasn't
gripe I
modded.
have
It's
with this scene, that's all.
yeah, it goes to like a bit that like that he hasn't modded. It's just like a door to like the kids like fun slide that goes out, you know.
Yeah, 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 right. Um, Anyway, so then we cut to Hoffman, and we see a really cool flashback of him setting up the rack trap.
Mhm.
Um, you know, he's in like the dungeons with John Kramer and Amanda. She's
Yeah,
pushing him
Amanda's
around in a wheelchair. Um, and you know, we're getting a few like few moral lessons here from John Kramer. It's like, oh, that's human life when he sees Hoffman like letting this guy like just dumping him out of the wheelbarrow like he's actual like garbage, whatever. And he's like, "Oh, you want to see these guys suffer as much as I do?" And he's like, "Oh, do you enjoy brutality, detective?" Oh no, he calls him Mark. I think it's the
yeah.
first time in the whole series that Hoffman's referred to by his first name. He's like, "Do you enjoy brutality, Mark?" Something like that, doesn't he?
Yeah, and
Um,
he's just like yes.
yeah, yes, I do. And then him and Amanda have a little bit of beef, and he's going, I don't need a test.
Yeah, then
And then,
John, yeah, you literally as
yeah,
soon as he
John
says
looks
that,
over. He's
John's
like,
like raising an eyebrow,
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, oh, I heard that.
Yeah, well, he already had his test. John put his finger on the barrel, on the trigger, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you." No, I'm not. Got you there. You
Yeah.
know. Anyway.
Although I do think Hoffman does make a good point. I don't think he really need. I mean, but I think the fact that he says that, I think if he hadn't said that, if John hadn't heard that, he wouldn't have got one. Like like he does later on in this film.
Yeah.
But I think but the fact he says that makes John go, "Oh yeah, you think so, do you, mate? Like
Yeah.
let's see
Exactly.
about that."
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I mean, it's the whole thing. His downfall is like his arrogance, like especially with the tape as well, like where John is addressing him as like, "Hello, detective. Yeah, you think it's all over, you think you've got all the control in the world, and you're gonna go away untested." He specifically says.
yeah, that's right.
Um.
I mean,
Anyway.
Hoffman's downfall is his like little bit of arrogance, and also his like just lacking a little bit of attention to detail, right? And that's
Yeah.
how he gets busted, eventually.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I like to point out as well is when he goes into before he goes into this flashback, he's like at his source station, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
These are like, it might be the fact that he's a detective. These are like so well organized, man. He's got like his
Oh
pin
yeah.
boards, he's got like every monitor. He's just chilling, and then like he gets a call, man, and he's like, oh, I want to watch this. I've got to go back to the office, and he's like just storms out.
Yeah, that's right. And this flashback ends with Jill. She comes out of nowhere as well, and John gives her that massive key that she wears around, and she's like, "Oh, when the time is right, you'll know when to use it."
Yeah.
So
She's like, she's like, honey, please, can you let me out of this like game you're playing? And he's like, I will give you an exit at some point. You know.
yeah, that's right, exactly. Um, so anyway, oh yeah, okay. Here's a Sigma moment coming up.
Yeah,
So
I know what it is.
yeah, okay. So we have a flashback to he's got on the other wrist written "Final Decision," right?
Yeah.
And then it goes to John Kramer versus William, in his office, and John's like going basically cap in hand to him, saying, "Yeah, this Norwegian doctor or Danish doctor has like
Yeah.
uh, 30-40% success
Yeah.
rate.
It's
He's
a
looking for new
really cool
patients for his new
treatment.
form, and he thinks, oh, it'll work, and William's like, nah, yeah,
If you do this, it's a
doesn't
breach
know.
of policy or
Yeah, it's
contract.
policy, John. He just
Basically,
keeps saying
we're
it's
gonna throw
policy,
you
like
out.
that means anything.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hate William, man. I'm like, like this film does a really good job of like, like if you weren't already like, a bit of a psycho enough to, side with John Kramer for a lot of this. Now you're like, even I think most normal people are just like, yeah, like
yeah.
we're with him this time.
And I
And
liked the
I really appreciate how creative they got because he's already dead. He died in Saw 3, right? And we've already we've seen his doctor and everything like that. And they sat there and they managed to think of this entire like extra story. So, and they've already talked about. So yeah, there's the cancer thing, and then there's losing his son. So there's like two really big things. And then from all of that, they managed to get another really really compelling storyline out of something which is just never referenced before. But of course, he would have went through that. Of
mm,
course, he would have been medically insured. And I just think it's so cool that they went down this line of just like, oh, John Kramer interacted with this piece of shit, and this is what's going to be the plot of this Saw film. I
yeah.
think that's so creative the way they did that. It's so interesting.
Yeah, and the thing is as well that he says is the fact that um like
Yeah.
he says, oh, I'm just gonna basically go on his own, or whatever.
Yeah.
um and like he's like, oh well, even if you do like do this, your cancer's like malignant and inoperable. And he's like, oh, that roll off your tongue really easy.
Oh yeah.
Said something along the lines of
Smooth.
like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, and it will come back every time. And he's like, that was even smoother, I dare say slick, effectively.
That was downright slick. Yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, I'll let you
this
say
is
this.
this
Yeah,
Sigma
because
quote.
he's like, oh, you're
Yeah,
gonna
no,
go
you say it. Go on.
bankrupt doing this.
I'll let you have it. Go on.
Yeah, because he basically says, oh, you're gonna go bankrupt if you do this. He says, don't talk to me about money. I have money.
Yeah, man, that's like
The
some
principle that matters.
Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck shit, man. Like
Yeah.
I have money. Like I love that the power move there. Um,
Yeah, it's like always questionable where John Kramer gets his money from. I know he owned that business, but it's like does he actually spend any time running it, or does his mate just send him a check in the mail every month or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
here's 10 grand. Don't blow it all on buzz saws you order through our company. You know,
Yeah.
for your construction.
Yeah, this confrontation is great, and we also get he's looking at the fish tank with the piranhas in it, and there's like that whole symbology as well. So that was
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Remember, guys. If someone has a piranha in their fish tank, they're probably a villain. So
This
that's
William guy's an idiot though, man. I mean, although it's kind of weird because he's like obviously he's like the senior vice president of this place, and you know he goes he tells these people face to face that like he's basically giving them a death sentence. That's what we see with the flashback
mm,
of the guy at the beginning as well, right? He's like
mhm.
you've just given me a death sentence, you've just killed me, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So like
You know people are going to try and kill you.
no, I think he's just there, and it's like obviously once you've said that to someone, they're gonna like they're not just gonna leave the room and just like oh they're gonna make a whole speech trying to make you feel bad and stuff, right? Like literally that's what. So it's like you know,
Yeah. Well,
like yeah,
I know.
like
Well, John Kramer ends it really well though as well because he says along the lines of like, you
oh
think you're going to
yeah,
get away with this because you think you're judged by the living and the those of the dead will not like haunt you effectively. He says
yeah.
you may be very
It's
wrong
the
about
dead
that.
that will have final say over you, something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
watch the
very
film,
cool,
guys.
very cool. Um, Okay, so then we cut to William. Now he's come out of his flashback, and he is. I wrote this down. I'm really not sure what to call this one. I wrote it down
The
as the
maze,
steam trap.
the
Oh yeah,
maze
mate.
chat, the steam maze, the rat race,
Yeah, right.
the thing that shoots through your head.
Yeah, this trap. So who's trapped in it? It's his lawyer, isn't it? Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
she's there, and he's got to guide her through this maze, and
Yeah.
which is like there's all these like hot jets of steam,
Mm.
shooting out of various pipes.
Yeah, and there are yeah, basically he's got to help her by when she comes up to these spots, there are some levers around and he can pull them, but then the steam will turn off for her, but it will turn on him,
Burn him
except if he
somehow. Yeah.
gets in a normal position where he won't get hit by it, but he
Yeah,
decides
exactly. He's like playing Twisted to go and like get in these like exposing positions, man. I'm sure he can lean over and do something.
yeah, he's like, or use your foot or something, I don't know,
Yeah,
like
exactly. But I
just
guess panicking. He's in that moment. He's like, oh, whatever.
yeah, maybe he's not putting his thinking cap on, or I don't know.
Yeah, he probably doesn't have his best thinking cap
He's
on.
never been he's maybe never had to deal with life and death situations much, so
Yeah,
uh,
for sure. Well, anyway, I don't know. This trap is kind of like not that interesting for
forgettable.
Simon. Yeah, she gets out of it, but then what is cool? This is also a little kind of a throwback to Saw 1 and 2,
Yeah.
where the key to her thing is in his body. Like we saw earlier,
Yeah,
something
and she
like
has like like a saw, like circular
yep,
saw on her.
we get our obligatory saw here in this film. So here it comes. Yeah, she gets the saw out and she's like trying to
I
cut him
need
up,
that
get
key.
the key out.
And she had 90 seconds right for this. It's got to be the longest 90 seconds of my life, man, watching this. I was like, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know. I should have times that, but like, yeah, maybe John Kramer or Mark Hoppman, whoever set this one up, has some dodgy timers or something on it.
it's very cool. Oh, I saw some trivia. This is the first Saw film which has digital timers rather than analog ones. So there's something. Since you mentioned it, what I did
Well, yeah,
like is like,
on the patient, oh well, victims. But at the same time, actually, there was one in Saw 4 actually on the wall.
yeah, on the
Actually,
wall. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true.
I
Um,
guess on the actual person, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
I'm
so
yeah,
far we've seen those like really cool like egg timer almost things, right? So
yeah.
So
Have a
what is cool
soft
is
dial
as
or
she's
something.
about to kill him, deliver the final blow with the saw. Her arms are raised above her head, and then the thing shoots through her brain. And pierces her brain.
Yeah, exactly. As well, like I guess she might have been trying to kill him as well, but like,
Oh yeah, obviously.
yeah, your time's not very, you don't have a lot of time. You're gonna saw this guy, and then you're gonna cut it out, like, Anyway,
Yeah.
they're not. Yeah,
I don't know. I just thought it was cool
I
the
wouldn't
way
be
they
thinking
kind of
of a
like
straight
the
fight.
way she's like that, and then like that. So that was like cool to see.
Pretty
It's a
horrific.
lot
Yeah,
better than, for example, Art Blank's one, which is like would like clip the back of his neck or something like
yeah, yeah, yeah. It gives him like a haircut or something.
Yeah, right.
The yeah, that's what it reminds me of as well. And she probably has like a like a round winning kill ragdoll thing. She falls down like
Oh
several,
yeah. That's right.
into like a pit, and it's like, wow.
Brutal.
Oh, well, he sustained third-degree burns for someone who he ends up getting killed anyway. So, congrats, Will.
Yep. Okay, now I'm gonna cut to. Let's talk about this scene now. Yeah, this is interesting. Okay. I don't
Well,
know.
he basically goes to Perez, right? And
Hoffman, yeah, Hoffman goes and sees Perez and Erickson, right? Um, and yeah, so they're like, that's like they're like analyzing the tape, and then they're asking him some questions and stuff. And then he's got his watch on, and she's like, "Oh, you
yeah,
timing
she's like, "Are you
something?"
timing something?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, I
what?
left dinner on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, left the oven on.
Yeah,
See ya. Um, yeah.
yeah. And then they're like, oh, we're
Now
trying
then,
to. Is it at this point where they say we're trying to figure out the whose voice is on the tape because it's not the same as John Kramer's. And then Erickson's like favorite word is like, yeah, this will be our smoking gun, like
that's right. Yeah, he's
if
suddenly,
it's
yeah,
Peter
he's like,
Strahm's voice, and it's like, oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And then Hoffman's like, oh yeah, yeah, that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
yeah. Um, Let me see here. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we get a little bit of that build up, right? And then we cut. I was going to combine the two scenes, but I'll do it in chronological order. So then we cut to, um, this is really cool, man, because we go back to William, and then he sees the spiral on the door, right? Which is the title of the most recent Saw film, Saw 9, but it's
Yeah.
Spiral, a jigsaw story. So
Yeah, and it's also but it's
that was
also
cool seeing
the spiral on Billy the Puppet's face.
on his cheeks. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
So yeah, we get that little bit of that thing there, and then he goes through the door, and we come to the carousel trap,
the one right here.
which has got to be one of the most iconic Saw traps
Mm.
ever. His what was it called? Dog
The
Squad,
dog pit.
Dog Pit. Okay, so six kind of guys are there.
No, no,
Besides
three
this,
women, three guys. Remember this
yeah,
guy.
it is.
For all his shortcomings, he is a pretty diverse company. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
Um,
he gets some points here.
yeah.
At least he's not a
Um,
racist.
Yeah, so these six people they're all tied to this carousel, and he can only he this is so cool, man. It's
Mm.
like I really
You
appreciate
get
this
to
is
see
where it
their
becomes
real.
this is again where Saw is like, yeah, they're horror films, but also psychological thrillers. He can only save two of their lives, and he has to like which of them's worthy, so he has to make a choice, and then they are all individually like begging him and giving
Yeah,
him
they're all
reasons to
like
save them. Very
yeah,
cool,
they're all like
very interesting.
trying to negotiate and stuff with him.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and yeah, I feel he's a bit of a sib. He kills all the blokes essentially. One of them, yeah, like one of
Yeah.
them's like one of the girls is like, oh yeah, I just randomly says, "I'm pregnant, guys, trust me." Like
Yeah, yeah,
one of the most, I forget who it was, but one of the most like the base negotiating was the guy who said, "My parents are loaded," like,
yeah.
and then he
Um,
gets him killed anyway.
Fun
Yeah,
bit of trivia. Actually, that actress was actually pregnant during the time of that shoot. So there you go.
she wasn't
Obviously,
like.
she wasn't in the film. She was like bullshitting, but like it
How
was
do
it
you
was still.
know?
And she could, and then one of the guys calls him pussy whipped. Which in fairness is true. Um,
Yeah. Because the guy at the end's like he realizes because he saves two of them and there's one left, and he's like, "Oh,
yeah,
great!" So he has like his whole he has his whole moment where he's like, "Oh, well, it takes a woman to say something, and then you're done for." But
yeah,
then he also says like, "Yeah, look at me when you're murdering me," and then
yeah,
that was pretty.
yeah, yeah. That was really cool, man. I really like because okay, so like because the way it work, I just think this is so well put together. The way it unfolds because it's going round. The first guy dies, and then he saves one of the girls, so he's only got one person to save left, and then they're
Mm.
all kind of out. And then another one dies. Then the fourth one dies, and then he saves the fifth one, and then the sixth one is left, and just that realization, that moment where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna die now," this is like my last moments, and
Mm.
how he
No,
used
he
them. Yeah,
doesn't
and he says,
waste it.
"Look at me when you're killing me," it's like, wow, it's like it's really like powerful, and actually like
Yeah,
every time I watch it, it has me on the edge of my seat. I'm just like, like really gets you going. It's like, wow.
yeah. I
So
think
good,
it's
man.
also I think it's quite appropriate for something called the dog pit because this is literally essentially they're like all like ready to eat each other basically like just to
Mm,
survive like
interesting.
pulling every dirty trick in the book because that's essentially what their job was to be like
Yeah.
oh well pull out discrepancies in other people and then then he's basically forced them to do it to each other and also being like well, really, in a way, it's like they almost have to be like the people who they screw over, where they're like they're trying to list reasons why they should be alive, and he has to actually do their job that they normally do, where he has to basically filter out in his mind and be like, no, you don't deserve to live, you don't deserve to live, and
Mm,
then only a third of them survive, which is what they essentially do to others.
yeah. Wow, you're right. That's interesting. Yeah,
I mean,
that's really
that's
good.
how this was designed, so you can't give me the credit. So
No, but yeah, I mean, it just yeah, it's like it just there's it's like an onion. There's layers to it, man.
this
This
is
is
this is
why
a
it just
really
this is
really good
again like I
track.
know I'm saying almost every episode now, but this is like it pisses me off when people's like, oh, If mate, if you say Saw films don't have good plots, just watch this one. And this is the sixth one, by the way.
Well,
This is a
if
moment
you
where you're
watch this one, you
kind of
might be a bit confused, but
any other film that lasts this long has definitely doesn't. It's very rare to see a franchise, especially a horror franchise, right? And especially with, as we said before, the kind of limitations that Saw films have. The fact that they're able to like have this going on is so interesting. Like, and it's just a real credit to like again the creators of these films. It's so creative, you know.
hmm.
And yeah, anyone says that, oh, well, Saw films don't have good plot. I don't know what you're watching. I don't know where you've got that opinion from. It's just like one of these myths that just there's
Oh well,
lazy criticisms. Um,
maybe because they saw the latest two. I don't know. Well, I'll have to find out for myself.
I've written here Billy tape as well.
The boots, yeah, because he's on this tape. It's like a the classic tape of Billy the Puppet giving the instruction in this one.
Yeah, rather than
As
John.
opposed to we've got three different ones so far. We've had John
Yeah,
Kramer on tape, then Billy the Puppet live on stage, and then
yeah.
Billy the Puppet, how he normally is on the
And then
tape.
we get a voice tape at the end as well, don't we? So we get like,
Yeah, because is it the reporter who picks it
yeah,
up,
yeah.
but she doesn't listen to it.
So that's cool.
Like she's
Okay, now,
like the tape
yep.
starts roasting her, and she's like, "Yeah, well, yeah, fuck you," and then throws it away.
Yeah, that was pretty like mad because it's like the first time we've ever seen anyone do it, and I think the only time as well. Like someone
Actually, no.
destroys the
Well,
tape rather than listen.
in Saw 2, if I remember, the one who reaches her hands up into the
Oh
trap
yeah,
door,
that's true.
she just ignores it entirely.
That's true.
But you never see someone throw the tape, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, yeah, that was interesting. Okay. Speaking of tapes, we go back to
This is a
Hoffman.
proper tense scene coming up. I love
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is like the rewatch value is great because I know what happens, but I'm still there. I'm like, oh, it's so tense, man.
Yeah,
Um,
and Hoffman's acting is
fantastic.
A
It's
tier
so
here,
good.
man.
I love Hoffman, man. He's literally me. He goes into this tape analysis forensic room, and Erickson and Perez are there, and this like
Yeah.
clerk forensic person's there as
Yeah,
well.
the Wagian of the team.
Right, right, right. So she's trying to like decrypt the tape or whatever, like
Yeah, she's like,
the
oh, whoever made this tape must have had some real access to really good encrypting stuff or like
yeah.
distorting things. And the funny thing I find with this is like throughout this entire scene, they're like, oh well, it could be strong, but there's some things that just don't add up, and we're gonna
Yep.
talk about them as if we're not suspecting you, even though you're right here, and all of this stuff might lead to you.
But do you
Yeah,
think at this
I just
moment
can't
they
quite
are
think.
suspicious of Hoffman or not? Because I don't think they were. I think he had them completely fooled, and he's just second guessing himself a lot. I think he had them completely fooled until they hear his voice. I don't think they was suspecting him at all, personally.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. It's just funny to me because like obviously as an audience, I
Yeah.
know that he's Jigsaw, but it's just funny the way they're talking like it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
anyway,
I think they're talking not because they suspect Hoffman, but because they don't believe that Strong was that bent. I think they were just
yeah,
like they were kind of more
it's out.
suspicious
Yeah,
of
they're
that
like
than they were
yeah,
of him.
especially Perez. Like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a real
Because she
thorn in
was
his
they were
side. 'Cause she's
partners
like,
for
well,
years.
it's not the Strom that I knew. I know he's a bit of a hothead, but there's no
Yeah,
like real motivation for him to do this.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then yeah, Hoffman's like, oh, well. you can't really ever tell what someone's really thinking, can you?
Yeah, exactly, man. He's got balls, man.
Yeah, like, and the thing is, you see as well, like, which I like as well in this scene, he's walking around, he's like scouring out, like, oh, what could I possibly kill them all with? Like, he
Yeah,
picks up like the hot coffee as well, you know.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like,
exactly.
and then she's like, "Are you all right? You seem a bit, you know." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, I'm just interested in seeing what happens with this tape, you know.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
really excited. Can't you tell? He's like his hands shaking with the cup, you know.
and what the thing about Hoffman as well, I get the impression that he definitely didn't he was stood there like kind of I think he was hoping. Well, I mean, obviously he was hoping that the tape wouldn't be decrypted so that he would,
Mm.
he's being identified. But I don't think he wanted to kill anyone. Like I think he was, you know, he doesn't strike me as someone that he's not like a killing machine. He killed that one Seth Baxter out of like revenge or
Mm.
vengeance, and then you know everyone else has like done it for John or whatever. He's like set up a few traps. He's not directly killed them though,
Well, this is just pure
and
survival, really. You can
and
tell.
Strom as well. Yeah, this is literally survival. But I think if things went his way, I think he would have rather not killed them. He would have just, it's more of like I felt like some reluctance there, but
Mm.
he's doing it just to survive rather than. But what I like about this is the first time you see Hoffman kind of lose control as well because
Yeah,
now you kind of getting to a point where it's like he's running out of ground. The ground's shrinking beneath his feet, isn't it?
yeah.
It's like
He's gotten
yeah,
too comfortable for too long,
yeah.
and
Too many
this
people
I
have.
gotta say, it's so good when like they find when they like the penny drops right, and they
Mm,
all realize at the same time, and
mm,
like because he obviously knows it's him, then they all figure out it's him, and then
hmm
like in a split second he's like killed all three of them, you know,
Yeah, it's
and
so good, man.
and
Mark
he
Hoffman
like
becomes John Wick, man. He slits Erickson's throat,
yeah
throws the hot coffee on Perez,
Perez. Yeah,
and
and then
then
Perez gets a gun out, and then he uses the technician as like a huge
yeah, human
shield man.
shield. Yeah, man.
Oh,
Yeah, human
that poor
shield.
lady, man. She's just doing her job, man.
Yeah, she's
These two
minimum wage,
FBI
man.
agents coming. This guy
Yeah.
like just kills two of them and then uses them as like a
But
bullet shield.
Hoffman's, he's so good in this scene, man. Yeah, he picks her, uses it as a human shield, and then he shanks the shit out of Perez. Like reminded me of the Revenant. Tom Hardy,
Yeah, it is.
son. He's like just fucking like
Yeah,
shank.
it's like Hoffman potentially, got some London ancestry in him, maybe.
100%, man.
Yeah,
He
and
grew up in London, for
the thing that I
sure, man.
found, yeah, he's like looking around, like, oh, I just killed three people. But like, I think, like, I don't know, it's just really funny. He just goes back to his car. He just keeps human flesh in his car, man. Like,
Yeah, man. He
he's just like,
pulls out
oh,
like
here's Strom's
Strom's hand out there,
fingerprints. Yeah,
torches the office.
yeah. He
Yeah.
puts fingerprints everywhere, tortures the office. The thing is, as well, one of the other things they pointed out to him was like, well, these fingerprints were actually indicative of someone who was already dead. And he was like,
Mm.
okay. So I
Yeah.
don't know if they would have figured that out anyway, even if he did
Yeah.
more fingerprints, but who knows?
Um, and what is really cool about this scene as well is as he's killing Perez, he asks her, who else knows about me? And she goes, everyone. And it's
Mhm.
so good because he just plays into that like paranoid schizophrenic kind of edge of it as well. Because he's already like you can already see he's so on edge, It's just a really clever.
Mhm.
Even though Perez is dying, she just like basically spits in his face.
Yeah,
But
it's
like
a bit like yeah,
that's really like a really good like final fuck you. Like your last
yeah,
breath. You're
yeah,
just ruining this guy, man. You know what I mean? I think the
yeah.
writing there is fantastic.
Yeah, and this kind of like that reminds me of this kind of makes me think of Macbeth if you know like because in that he basically gets the king killed so he can become king and he thinks
Mm,
no one else knows because it like in this way he's become Jigsaw. He thinks no one else knows. He's doing everything he can to like keep it down, but eventually it comes back to bite him.
mm,
But it's not over yet, which I find there's more to go through after
yeah.
torching the office, and he's just driving off.
Yeah, Sigma male, man. I love Mark Hoffman. His character is so good, man. Like the stuff he does. I mean, this action scenes. It just shows like how capable. I mean, we've already seen him in a fist fight with Strong, but he's so capable. Yeah, man. I just
Yeah, thinking on his
with the
feet.
rewatch value as well. When he's picking up the hot coffee and he's picking up this and that, and he's just weighing up the room and everything. And yeah, I
Yeah,
just
some could say.
the tension that is building there, as she's like getting closer and closer to deciphering the tape, and then they're saying, "Oh, this is strange. Why would he do this and that? They're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's so good, this
Yeah,
scene.
well, you get to see him thinking on his feet. Like there's a lot of like
Yeah.
improvise. I mean, one could say intuitive improvisation is the secret of genius.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Very cool scene. I
Hmm.
love it. Um, okay, then we get flashback to.
Another
This is
one.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, so we mentioned before about how John Kramer lost his unborn son, Gideon.
Hmm.
And now we learned that Amanda was actually part of that. So I think this is really cool plot twist because we learned that first of all, Amanda. Oh yeah, sorry, this is something we've got to mention with the other flashback because when Amanda shows up in Jill's office with John, he's like, "Oh, this is someone that you said was incurable or whatever. She's lost or whatever, something like that." And she's like, "Oh," and then he's like, "Well, I now she's reformed or
Hmm.
whatever."
Yeah. So is she really?
Yeah, and then it turns out she's the one that like pushed Cecil to go and knock on the door and like inadvertently kill Jill
Gideon.
and John's baby, right? So, yeah, man. So it's like Amanda was kind of responsible for all
Hmm.
that. Not,
Yeah, and then
directly,
yeah,
but
literally, and then yeah, Hoffman's like he's actually doing the thing like you do all this or I'll tell on you.
yeah, he blackmails her,
Hmm.
which is cool. Although, well, how is it Hoffman knows about that?
I actually don't know.
You know?
Maybe, maybe it's something to do with the fact. Actually, I really don't know.
Yeah, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
how
Maybe it's
yeah.
some information he's privy to as a detective. I don't know. Because maybe he was like, oh, there was a break-in at this hospital, blah, blah, blah,
Maybe,
blah.
yeah, saw some
Her
CCTV or
fingerprints were
something.
there. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um, right, and that kind of and what is really cool about that is it goes back all the way back to Saw 3 and 4, where it's like, he goes to Johnny's like, she'll let you down, and then she's like, and then she kind of it adds more explanation, motivation as to why she killed the nurse and stuff. She's like kind of backed into a corner herself
Mm,
because she's been blackmailed. I think that's quite an interesting dimension that they just
mm.
add into it. Um,
Yeah, and a little more depth to Amanda too. Even someone
yep,
who's already dead. But anyway,
definitely.
um, yeah.
Um,
But yeah, he gets. Is it right after this as well? He gets back to his little, station as well.
Saw
This is
Station.
really good because Jill Tuck's been disappeared for quite a bit until
Yep.
now.
Yep, Jill shows up and then she tases him. He's sat down and she tases the
Yeah, it's like an
medicine chair
electric
that he's on.
chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that comes out of nowhere. That's really cool.
Mm.
And then we cut over. The ending is so good to this film. The
Yeah.
ending is
Do you
unbelievably
think?
good,
Can I
man.
just point out as well? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because what happens? Yeah, essentially is like William
Hmm.
gets into the essentially a cage just before the timer runs out, and he's like locked
Hmm.
in there.
Hmm.
And then the walls are lifted so he can see
Hmm.
his family, which were led to believe that these people,
Hmm.
the son and the obviously the mother, which they aren't actually his family, and
Hmm.
then there's the reporter as well. And
Hmm.
the thing that threw me out of this film so badly, like just with Saw One, I
Hmm.
don't know if you saw this. What was his name? Sorry, Devon Bostick is the kid, right? Who
Hmm.
also plays Roderick in the Diary of a
Yeah,
Wimpy
Dive
films, and I was
Wimpy.
like, but to be fair, his acting in this is good, but I was just like,
Yeah.
oh man.
It's so good. I love the build up to this plot as well because like at the beginning it's like, oh, we're here because of your father, and it's like it's like implied that it's William, but they never explicitly made that connection. And then to discover that their father, his father, and her husband was the guy that William rejected for health insurance for like medical coverage on this technicality,
Hmm.
and then they have final because there's that lever that they're playing with the whole film. It's like live
Yes,
or
live or
die.
die. Hmm.
It is so good, man. And then the only weak bit is like the journalist because she's just a total accessory to this scene. Like I
Yeah.
forgot that she's even in this, to be honest. I think she's just there to serve as like a plot twist where it's like, oh, that's the family, that's the one he was calling earlier. Are they married? Yeah, I guess so. I
No,
just
no,
that was
his
a little bit,
wife.
but I
I
think
don't know.
it's very much a side piece there, so it doesn't matter. I just love this plot twist is so cool, man.
Yeah,
Um,
and not only.
because then he goes, oh, it's not my game. He has this realization, and then they have power to like. And what I like as well is in the tape is that John goes, he actually apologizes for putting them through this.
Mm.
He's like, you don't. He has the awareness to go, you don't deserve to. I'm sorry for subjecting you to this experience, but now this is reason why you get to have final say over this guy. Does he deserve to live or die?
Yeah, and yeah, because the thing I really liked as well is the mother, right? She was like,
Mm.
she looked like she was getting really pissed at him, and she was like,
Yeah,
it's like you never showed mercy to my husband and
yeah,
so on and so forth. But it was believable in the fact that she didn't actually have what it took to kill him because like
yeah.
it's one thing to say, but then when she's actually pulling the lever, she couldn't.
I'm actually
And
getting
then
goosebumps over this,
yeah,
man.
and then Devin Bostick's character, he really like sells it. He's like, she's like, oh, I can't do this, and he's like, but I can, which is
Yeah,
like, it's just so like,
bang.
like if this was us, like if you're like like a young adult, like you're definitely gonna go for it, man. Like
But
in this
yeah, definitely,
situation.
man. He sells it. Great acting. I wrote him down as the Sigma son. Um, I think this is a Sigma Man
Oh,
moment as well.
but I think he regrets that decision as well, though, because like you didn't think it'd be
Well,
such a horrific death.
yeah, this is like, oh, not only is it, yeah, because and it's so good because it's another fake out. Saul is so good at this. And you just, it gets you every time because he kind of the camera's not on him at all, so it seems like the mother's doing this whole moment.
Mm.
It's her moment. She's saying the
She
words.
moves out the
He
way, and
goes to do
then
it. Yeah, she moves out the way. She's like, I can't do it. And then he comes out. It's like, oh, he's still there. I
mm,
can totally do it. Bang, slams it down, and he
yeah,
goes, I
oh,
can now burn in hell. Or so it's
yeah.
like, no, he always says, now you burn in hell. And it's
Yeah,
like,
there's
whoa.
also stuff. I mean, there's the fake out at the very beginning where they think the acid's actually hooked up to the sprinkler.
Oh yeah, there's that as well. Yeah.
Amounts to nothing, but I guess it's to keep him thinking. I guess keep
Yep.
him awake. And
And
yeah, and also the fact that the levers are hooked up as well to what Hoffman's in. I think, or that just happens at the
what?
same time. I guess.
No, it's not linked at all. What do you mean
Yeah,
it's linked at
I
all?
was thinking because they happen at the exact same time. I thought they're linked, and I was like, actually, probably not, but it's just a coincidence because they're doing the same
Yeah,
thing.
it's not linked. But man, this is one of the most horrific deaths I've ever seen on screen, man.
Yeah.
Um, I was way too young when I watched this for the first time.
You like to describe it
This
for
is
the audience.
the trap that scarred me. But I think this is like what desensitized me to all this shit from a young age, man. Because like this is absolutely like horrific. Like acid trap. So he's there. He's like you know grabbing the fence like the white mesh cage, right? And then the ceiling like swings down and like dozens of needles like stabbing him, pinning him, right? Like stabbing all his back. That's painful enough. And then
Yeah.
acid being pumped through them into his like torso. Um,
Yeah.
and they're watching him, like die. And
Yeah, he's literally like
oh
melting
man,
before their eyes, man. It's like horrific, man.
it's so
'Cause
messed up,
it's
man.
like a slow and like insanely painful way to
Yeah.
die. Like,
and and then not only that, but you literally see like the acid just corrode his midriff, and like you just see his like leg waist area separate from his torso,
oh,
and you
the
see
effects on
all
that is
the
good though.
amazing. The way they did that is incredibly it's just, and you just see all the insides and everything, man. It's just like, and it just falls down like it's literally again like I think like the pendulum trap, just
Hmm.
the separation from like the top of the torso and the legs, like a Lego,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
just like they do it the exact spot just so they can get loads of guts spilling out, man.
It's disgusting, man.
Yeah,
Um,
and as well, like the reactions to of them as well, like the mother's like horrified. The son is like he's like, oh, I maybe I shouldn't have done that, Like he's like he's regretting his decision, I think, because it's like so impulsive.
Yeah, it's just one of them. It's just John Kramer being extra, man. It's like, yeah, well, he's not just going to simply put a bullet through his head or something, is he? It's going to be something a little bit extra. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, to be fair, the amount of pain this guy's caused, like however many thousands of
Yeah,
people.
this is like a slow, painful, disgusting death, man.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, while he's dying, the whole film flashes before him as
yeah,
well.
of course, of
So
course.
I think it's probably one of the best film comps, I guess you could say, of this. That always
Yeah,
happens at the
yeah,
end.
it's amazing, man. And And again, it's this William guy as well. It's just the fact that because he's and it's not his game, but I mean he's managed to get through everything so far, right? So he's you know he's been bruised along the way, right? So you would have thought at this moment he's probably learned his lesson. If he was let back into society now, well, we don't know, man, the piece of shit like him, but you know,
Hmm.
but it's such a cool plot twist that now he has to face the consequences of his actions because so far it's just been exposing him as
Yeah,
a
because
hypocrite, you know.
everyone else's lives have been in his hands, and even the
Exactly,
traps, as well as his job.
exactly.
Now
And
he
now
gets to
this
feel what
time,
it's like to be on the receiving end of that.
exactly, and he gets to look at the people because he's looked at people like John Kramer and the guy from earlier from flashback, like he's seen them and he's like, well, they're gonna die anyway, so it's kind of not. But then he gets to see the consequences of him allowing that to happen, and then the family, the people left behind who are still living that are affected by
Mm.
that. So it's like, it's so good, man.
Yeah, but at the
Um,
same time, you got Hoffman and Jill.
this is so cool, man. Hoffman is put inside the reverse bear trap.
Yeah,
Um,
well, he's like got like the wrist straps on as well. Like he
yep,
can't he can't get out of the chair, or
yep.
can he?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is cool. So he's put inside and it's the sixth envelope. It's the one she didn't give him because he gave him five earlier and she had six. So this is the sixth one.
Yeah,
This
and
is
then it's got
John's
the
will.
picture of him in it. Be like, yeah, I know where you live, and then
Yeah, yeah, we get the flashbacks, like, oh, you think you won't be tested, and it's like, bang, and he's sat there, man, and he's like, yeah, and Hoffman again, we see him as the quick thinker, he thinks on his feet. This is what we love about him, he's there, he's tied to this chair, so he like
yeah, well,
uses.
after
He's got
Jill's
no way
left,
of
of
getting out
course.
of this. So it's kind of like there's no tape, there's no explanation. It's just like, oh, okay, like okay, now you're gonna die, basically. Um, so it's kind of an impossible. This is like an execution more than a trap
Mm.
or a test, right? But he's able to get himself out of it by using the thing to break his hand, his wrist,
Mm.
and then slide it through the thing in similar fashion to how Eric Matthews escapes his
Yeah,
shackles in
yeah, in
Saw.
Saw 2.
No, three, I think. Saw 3. Yeah.
Maybe.
And
I'm pretty sure it was Saw 2, but
no,
it might
Saw
be.
2.
It's
No,
it's it, these films do blend together
no, it's not Saw 2. Saw
intentionally.
2 is the one where he's in with John, the whole time. And then
Oh
he's
yeah,
left
yeah,
in the
yeah.
dungeon
Where
at
his
the end. So
son's
it
in a
happens in
safe
Saw
place.
3. Yeah, happens in Saw 3.
I think that's the one disadvantage of having
Yeah,
the
it's the opening
films.
of Saw 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the one disadvantage of having the films continue on from each other. So and then having their endings be the beginnings because it's really easy to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
mixed up.
definitely. I'd love to do one day a Saw marathon. I think next
Yeah,
next time I'm going to do a marathon, man, because they're not all that long. They're all 1.5 hours each,
yeah.
more
It'd
or
be
less.
about. I
So
thought it'd be about 8 hours long, probably, maybe.
yeah, you could easily do that.
But
By
no,
the way,
do
ladies
it
and gentlemen, if you
night
didn't
and
know,
day.
this is someone who's done a James Bond marathon before, so
Well, that was
I,
before
I,
the
and
25th.
I did a Star Wars marathon as well, so yeah. So
Lord of the Rings Hobbit marathon when. Yeah.
do we do a Lord of the Rings marathon?
No, no, I never done it. I know someone who has.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Well, it
Well,
was like
anyway,
18 hours, so could be
I'll
worse.
do a
Could do
Saw marathon one day, maybe next Halloween.
a,
Anyway.
could do
uh,
a anyway.
Yeah. So Hoffman, he's in the reverse bear trap. He breaks his wrist to slide it out, undoes the other strap, and then he's like looking around. What can he do?
Yeah,
And he jams the.
yeah. He tries like a screwdriver, man.
Oh yeah, that's
Like
right.
like he's trying to break it open, but then one thing I really like is he like when it gets to 5 seconds, it's counting down. Like does the quick flashback through the whole film of
Yep.
his plot. Just to just to jog your memory a bit, and it's like also his life flashing before him, I guess.
Yep.
And then yeah, as you said, how does he
Yeah.
escape this?
Well, he jams it between the bars in the window, jams it in there, and like and then it springs open, but not enough to kill him.
Kill him.
And he slides his head out, and then the closing frame of the film is just him like screaming in pain,
Yeah, because
much
he's
like
like ripped a bit of his face open.
yeah, it's ripped his cheek open, and it reminds me of Art Blank, in the beginning of Saw
Yeah,
4. Yeah, beginning of Saw
yeah,
4, like when his
yeah. He
lips are
opens
like
his mouth and it
sewn up,
starts.
and then he's
Yeah,
like, so, oh, it's disgusting, man. It's
yeah, and
so good.
he
But it's
now
cool
has
that
he now has a trademark villain facial disfigurement. Like a lot
that's
of
right,
good
and
villains.
he's escaped the reverse bear trap, which is cool
Yeah,
as well, because And it's kind of like that's kind of because that's what Amanda had to do to become like a Jigsaw apprentice, and then even though he's already fully fledged, he is basically Jigsaw now. He has to do the same thing, and he does escape it. So although in much more
Respect.
brutal fashion than I think Amanda did, but I'm going.
Well, Amanda didn't have the opportunity to use bars, I guess.
Yeah, so that's a really cool way to end the film. Except we have a post-credit scene, which is a bit random. Like
It's not very
just
consequential, but it's just a callback, really.
yeah, it's cool, but I think this would have been better
In
in
a
one of the earlier
previous Saw film.
films.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should have been in Saw 5 or 4 or in one of
Yeah,
those.
if it was at like the end of Saw 3,
Yeah,
or Saw 4, because it would have been more appropriate.
because then it's like, oh, don't trust the one who saves you. Oh, who's going to save her? You
Yeah,
wouldn't
because
know.
anyone watching this one, if you hadn't had context of watching the previous ones, you'd be
Yeah,
like, "Who's this? Little girl, man? Like,
yeah, this should have just been a deleted scene or
it's
something
just
rather than
Jeff's
like
daughter, man. Like,
throwing him on
who's
the end of
Jeff,
Saw
man?
6. It doesn't make any sense to be here, but
I don't know.
whatever. We got to mention that. Oh, and she says, don't trust the one who saves you. Yeah, so there you
That's it.
go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Saw 6, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're gonna rank. I always put
The
this away when
elements.
I always put my notes away when I know I'm gonna need them to rank to remember all the traps. So first thing we're gonna do is rank
The
the
traps.
traps. So the current rankings, Henry. Number 1, the rack trap from Saw 3. Number 2, the rapist trap from Saw 4. Number 3, the pendulum trap from Saw 5. Number 4, the wax trap from Saw. And number 5, the Venus flytrap from Saw 2. So we're going to have to rank. First of all, we're going to decide what the worst trap is in this film, and then we're going to have to rank it against one of them. All of them. So we've got the scales trap, the breath trap, the plank trap, the steam trap, the carousel trap, the acid trap, and the reverse bear trap once again.
Is the acid trap really a trap, though?
Fuck yeah, man.
Because this is the thing, that the point is that that trap hinges on you being a terrible person, right?
Well, they all do. No one's there because they're a good person, right?
Yeah, I know, but say if you were in this, the only way to get out of that trap is to rely on the other person not to kill you.
Yeah, but we're talking about traps you'd at least want to be in, right? And I think this one is just
I know, but if it was like,
the
if I'm
worst,
talking
man.
about the acid trap is the worst in general, but that's only if you actually get killed by it, and it's not a hard thing to get out of if you're like a normal person. If it was like me, and then if I was in a trap, and then I don't know who else would be the one deciding.
Yeah, I
Like,
know what you mean, but I mean, all of these traps are there because these guys have done something wrong. So, you know, and so yeah,
and I know it's because they've done something wrong, but it's more the fact that the way that you get out of it is by how bad of a person you are, and the other person deciding whether you die or not. And obviously, in his case, he was.
yeah,
So
but
it's
that's
not.
the same for the rack trap, isn't it?
Yeah, true, but there's also the fact that you have to rely on some idiot like Jeff to get you out.
Yeah, but
It's like he
there you
just
go.
sits there,
Yeah,
waits for
no,
you to lose all your limbs
we have
before.
to include this, the acid trap, 100%.
Yeah,
And if we do, does I think the only other one is
it's the
maybe the
scales one, I think,
scales trap. Yeah, for me,
because
that's probably the other.
no matter what you're getting out of there, like losing something.
Yeah, you're breaking a few ribs or whatever.
Yeah, I think she made the good call to cut off your left arm. Honestly,
Oh, okay. So what? Yeah, this is something I wanted to ask you actually. So say you're in the scales trap.
this is
What you
you, me. What would you do? What would I
I'm
do?
going. I would do the same thing as a fat guy. I'd go for the belly fat
No,
first.
no, no, because then you start bleeding out from there. Like that's like one of the worst places to cut. Because then
Yeah.
you
Why did you say that then? So why is that? Because you bleed out just because of
Yeah,
that.
because you bleed out a lot. That's like where a lot of your important organs are, and also it's like the cavity in which all your organs sit. Right. That's
Mm.
like if that starts, you're probably going to get something like sepsis from like being exposed to all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bacteria of
Okay.
someone. Whereas if you
That's
chop
fair.
off, I think maybe if you chop maybe your calf, I don't that might not be very good actually because then you wouldn't be able to stand.
Yeah.
Um, it's
Well,
got to
if
be
it was
an arm.
you versus me, man, I'd let you go. Obviously, I'd just be like, I'll just let you chop off like your earlobe, and then you win by 1 gram, whatever.
No, just do a coin flip or something. I'll just like I don't know what you do to settle that one. I don't know.
Okay, so if it's against like total stranger, or whatever, like someone
Yeah,
I
I'd
wouldn't
chop my
survive.
whole arm off, man. Just set up and
You
be like,
you
yeah,
go for
beat
the left
that.
arm as well.
Yeah, but the thing is, what she failed to do, which might have cost her life, was she chopped it and then just dropped in. because it's a long tube, it might not have stuck entirely on the scale, right? So she have chopped it up a bit more, so all the
Oh,
pieces
okay,
all go on
in
the
different
scale, right?
pieces.
So you get full credit for your work there and your sacrifice.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true actually.
Because like her arm doesn't all go all the way through because like kind of stuck on the thing. So
Yeah, that's true.
that's someone clearly isn't a saw enthusiast here,
Yeah.
even though she's a
Um.
fictional character. But anyway,
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I don't know. Yeah, I suppose left arm is probably the smartest one to go for. I mean, if you have to lose something. Other than that, yeah, what could you do
yeah,
realistically?
I'll chop off my entire lower body and just like start chopping bits up and throwing it in there. They'll never
Chop
beat
your
me.
knob off, and throw that
What if
in.
you think? Oh, yeah, it wouldn't fit through his tube. Am I right? What if you like? I don't think they'd give you your shoes. Just throw your shoes in there,
Yeah.
or your drip.
Um. Yeah, what could you really do, really? I mean,
Well, if you, I don't know, again with the liquids, if you like vomited in there, you probably get some weight out of that. If you,
what is
you know,
interesting as well. This is a callback to two films I'm thinking of. Again, so you've got Merchant of Venice. You know the pound of flesh thing.
yeah, well,
Says that, and then also in
there was
Seven,
another, yeah,
the lawyer, I believe, the one who's killed, he's the second one that is killed, um, and he has to chop a pound of flesh as well, and he goes for the love handle, I believe, right? And
yeah,
and because Brad Pitt's character, he goes, say you have a gun to your head, which part of your body is expendable, basically, it's like that decision that you make. Um, I don't know, maybe I'd go with a bit of like some buttocks, like a bit of bum,
nah. Well, you imagine sitting down after that.
Yeah, but imagine
You, you
clapping
could,
your
I
hands
could
after
live
you
without
chop
my
your arm
left
off.
arm,
So,
like you can get decent enough prosthetics nowadays. You're
thing
not
is,
gonna have like
yeah, well, that'd be cool. I mean, if you can get something like that, Terminator
you can have
2 arm or something.
substitute cheeks, do they?
Well, they do actually, but yeah, you
Oh,
get
I guess they do really. Yeah.
just get a BBL, mate. So
Hmm.
anyway, although yeah, your bum's like the biggest muscle in your body as well, so maybe not. Oh yes. Anyway, just have to
Yeah.
live a good life, so I don't have to make these decisions.
Yeah,
Um.
exactly. Just
Anyway,
cherish the fact you have all your limbs.
exactly.
Unless you
I
don't,
cherish
sorry.
my bum, man. I will never say tits is better than ass again. Although, yeah, if you're a girl, man, and you're quite busty, would you throw a boob down there if you could?
No, because that's horrific. That's like one of the worst decisions ever. It's like again, you're chopping off like
Well, no,
you're
because
gonna
they're
leave
just
yourself
fat.
extremely exposed, like to getting the illnesses and shit.
Well, yeah, same with lobbing your arm off.
Yeah, but it's a
You've got
lesser
an open
surface
wound either
area, and
way,
it's not
right?
in your chest. You can tourniquet your arm. You can't tourniquet your chest.
Yeah, I suppose. Okay. Well, anyway, we need to rank these traps. So the worst one, I think it has to be the acid trap, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, this is the thing. I'd do the acid trap asterisk if I was a terrible person.
Yeah.
If I'm
Well,
actually
that's the
getting
same
judged,
for the
because
rack trap, isn't it?
yeah,
Like I
because the
said.
way there, like, because we always rank traps if there's a way out of them.
Yeah, but there
Not like
wasn't.
ones like
What about
you
the
can't have.
pendulum trap? That was rigged, so we put that
Yeah,
as
true. I
well.
guess. Well,
So
there was a hypothetical way out of it
I
if
know,
that
I
would
know what you're
actually
saying.
work.
I know you'd like. I know what you're saying, but we
Yeah,
the rules.
the
So,
acid one would suck, but I would be able to get out of it. I think
so we'll go
because
with the
I'm
acid
just such a
trap.
good person.
We'll go with the acid trap, right?
Mhm.
So now where are we going to rank that against the rat trap, the rapist trap, pendulum trap? I think it's got to be right up there, doesn't it?
That's either got to be the. I think it's the second worst, below the rack trap, because the rack trap's even slower than this and probably more painful.
Um.
That is bad, man.
Yeah, that is bad. Yeah. Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, the rapist trap. Let me think about that one as well. Yeah, you get your eyes dug out. That's bad as well, man.
That's best case scenario if your eyes get dug out.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I don't know, man. These are all really bad. That's the thing. Like, you don't want to be in any of these.
Well, best case scenario, the acid trap, you're totally fine.
Yeah, acid trap versus the rat traps. Like choosing which one you'd rather die to, man. Um, so you'd put it second below the Rack Trap.
Yeah, because the rack trap's an even slower death. Like that's like tormenting you, man.
Yeah, but this thing is like, imagine acid being pumped into you through like you don't like needles either, right? So like you've got.
I'm not a needles pussy, like.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Well, then, if you were, people have needle phobia, so you got dozens of needles already stabbing you everywhere, and the acid's being pumped through them, like burning your body, man. I don't know. I don't know.
I think that's still not as bad as getting each limb twisted until it fucking goes like 360 degrees one by one, and then your head over the course of like however many. That guy's dead in like 30 seconds to a minute. That guy, the other guy, he takes like 5 minutes while he's also watching Jeff be a complete swat down there,
Yeah.
because your life is completely in their hands with some like complete moron there as well. It is the other part of the torture is having to watch him stand around like a moron.
I think I'll go and yeah, I'll agree with you and put it second. I think
It's a close second though.
I think the deciding factor for me is just kind of how iconic the rat trap is as well. Like the
Yeah,
acid
you're
trap is
dying
one
a
that I
horrible
remember,
death, but at
but
least
kind
it's
of it's
iconic.
not like the rat trap is just so iconic. I think, and I think for that reason I would leave it at first.
Such a good
Um,
trap. It got a cameo in this one.
yeah, exactly. It's literally Jigsaw's personal favorite, isn't it? So I think on that foundation. I mean, it's so close for me, and I wouldn't argue if someone did put the acid trap first.
Yeah, it can go either way, but this is our person. This is at least my personal spin on it.
Yeah. Okay. So number one is the rack trap. Number two, acid trap. Number three, rapist trap. Interesting.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. Now the best ending. So number one, we have Saw. Number two, Saw 4. Number three, Saw 2. Let me just jog our memories of what happens, by the way. So otherwise, it's just going to get lost. So
Original
number
Saw.
one is Saw, where he rises from the dead, like the dead body in the middle of them. End of Saw 4 is
Saw 3 was happening at the same time,
yeah, and Hoffman
and
is the
Hoffman is
villain.
actually
Plot
the villain.
twist.
Yeah, he gets a
Um,
good game over in that.
yep. Number three is the ending of Saw 2, which is
It's pre-recorded, and his son's in a very
yep,
safe place.
yep, and Erickson ends up in the bathroom. Yep. Number four is Saw 5, and the ending of that is oh yeah,
The
man.
beginning of this.
Strom being crushed in
Strumming
the
crush. Hoffman's just in the coffin being like,
yeah. It's a cool ending, but it didn't go so high up because it's not like plot twist kind of thing,
yeah,
really.
nothing like blows your mind. It's just like, oh,
Um,
that's fucked up.
and then number five we have Saw 3, which is like Jeff
Yeah, you
slicing his
get the
throat.
Jeff round winning kill,
Yeah,
man.
Jeff is married to or was married to the nurse. Like,
Yeah,
wow.
it's just like, yeah, confusing.
Um, now we
This,
have to rank this ending up against these ones. I think this should go second.
yeah, I agree on that one.
They,
This
I
so
mean, again, like this is going back to the traps ranking. The rack trap is so iconic. I think the ending for Saw 1 is so iconic that it can't be beaten. But again, I don't really think I'd argue if someone put this first, even because
yeah,
you
but if you boil it down, it's the guy. Well, he has a horrific death, but it's just Hoffman's like quick thinking how he gets out of this, and then him screaming at the end.
yeah. But it's also the plot twist of like William and the family thing. That's not his
Yeah,
family,
yeah, true.
and
Yeah.
it's the fact that they're the family of the guy that he sentenced to death, effectively. So I think that's such a powerful plot twist. Yeah, I think it goes second,
Yeah,
like a strong second there, right?
very strong second.
You agree with that?
Hmm. Yeah, that's where I was
Oh,
gonna put it. So
cool. So now it's number one Saw, number two Saw 6, and number three Saw 4. Ah, Sigma moment. Number one, we have the voicemail from Saw 2. Number two, turning down the hoe in Saw 4. Number three, Sigma versus Sigma, Hoffman versus Kramer in Saw 5. Number four, Amanda challenging the nurse to kill her in Saw 3. And number five, apathetic but mostly pathetic in Saw 1. So, which moment are we going to nominate here, Henry? Because we did pick out a few, and where are we going to
well,
rank it?
Well,
So what do
Hoffman
we have?
saying
What do we have?
we
Just to
had
recap.
Hoffman saying to the
I doubt that.
journalist,
Yeah.
yeah, somehow I doubt that, like basically saying you're a moron, which is like his acting as well. He's just like so
Yeah. Yeah.
ballsy. He's
Yeah.
just like,
Very
yeah,
cool.
don't care.
Uh,
I'm gonna plot your death now because you know about the box, when you shouldn't. And the other thing was, well, there was the other one, which is like, I think we have to go with it. Don't talk to me about money. I have money.
money. Yeah.
Like,
Right.
archetypal
I've
Sigma
got money.
Sigma
Yeah.
quote.
Um. And I want to shout out the son as well. You know, his like moment. You know, like I can now burn in hell. You know, like I thought that was like a pretty Sigma moment as well.
It's not as good as that. I
But
yeah, I
yeah,
would
yeah, yeah, pure
I would say
Sigma man.
that
I've got money.
I would say
Yeah.
this goes number one because it is just it's
Ooh.
such a it's like it's literally like the I bought the bank of this franchise, man.
I don't know, man. The voicemail from Saw 2 is so good, man.
But it's not the
You
same
know?
as like it's not the same as like literally like flexing on like he's saying, not only is he saying I'm rich, he's saying it to a guy who's actually like the head of like a health insurance company who's probably loads himself. Like this guy's trying to flex on him, like, oh, you know, you might go bankrupt. It's like, I will not go bankrupt with the prices in America here, you know, because he's loaded.
Oh, you're making me think now. I don't know, but I mean, cast your mind back to the voicemail of Saw 2, man. Like, Eric, he's
It's
just
not
been
as good.
chatting shit to Eric Matthews. Eric Matthews goes over, like, looks and sees his son on the tape, tries to call his son, and only to receive a pre-recorded voicemail from John Kramer trolling him, man. Like, oh, you're
Yeah, but
right
it's
though.
the same thing.
This is an
It's the same
archetype
thing we
Sigma
did with
kind of
the one
move,
where he
isn't it?
turns down a hoe. It's ranked highly, not necessarily just. It's a good thing, but it's also because it's like just a typically Sigma like thing to do, and that's the case with this. It's just like
Mm,
flex how much money he has to this guy. John Crome's success story.
Man, each category has really got me thinking, man. Like, damn. Um,
You thought it'd be Saw 5 that made you think, but this one actually turned out to be the one.
yeah, I've got money versus the voicemail.
No, don't talk to me about money. I have money.
Yeah. And you're saying put it number one.
Yeah, yeah, live or die. Make your choice, James.
Okay, you know what? Because Saw 6 was unlucky to miss out on the previous categories number one, I think it does deserve a number one nomination here. So yeah, let's do that then. Voicemail goes in at number two from Saw 2. And I've got money goes in at number one. Okay, let me just make a note of that. Okay, so that's our number one Sigma moment from the Saw franchise so far. And
And the
all of these
film.
belong to John Kramer, I think, really, apart from this one with Amanda
Yeah,
and Hoffman versus Kramer. I think I'm kind of a bit bugged by the fact we haven't really given Hoffman a not like a proper like nomination yet.
because he
I mean,
hasn't
we
got
had.
like
I
he
doubt
hasn't.
that. By the way, I mean, if it wasn't the I've got money one, I doubt that moment is so Sigma as well, man.
Yeah, yeah. But
But
that's an
yeah,
honorable mention, but it won't be on the list,
yeah,
unfortunately.
unfortunately. Okay.
As for
All
the
right.
film,
Now we're going to rank the films. Yep. So our current ranking is number one, Saw 5, number two, Saw 4, number three, Saw, number four, Saw 3, and number five, Saw 2. Now, where are we going to put Saw 6? This is an interesting
oh,
one.
yeah, I
I,
might be controversial here. I'm tempted to put it either second or even first.
no, I don't think it goes first, but I think I would put it second or third. Um, so why would you put it? Why would you consider putting it above Saw 5? That's what I'm interested to know. Just because the one of the
I
plots is like
feel
a bit more
I
fleshed out
feel
in terms
this
of it
is
being personal.
first of all, it has a much better ending, I think, because it's like mind blowing. You know, you get to see, you get to see like gruesome death. You know, plot twist. Mark Hoffman trying to get out of the reverse bear trap. Like the literal ending part of him like screaming with like his face like partially ripped. It's got it's got the plot of the traps is a lot better, I think.
Hmm.
You know, you've got people who you can really invest in and really hate. You know, got I mean, it has very creative traps in its own right as well. Um, which and it's a lot of there's a lot of ways like it's like kind of analyzing the behavior of these people as well, like the six in the dog pit who are like trying to negotiate as to who's going to live and so on. And
Hmm.
then again, him being torn between deciding whether or not he should go by his policy or whether or not he should let the person with the family live.
Mm.
Um, and also the one of the strengths of Saw 5 is the story with
Yeah.
Strom and Hoffman. He's trying to set up Strom to make it look like it was him the whole time, which also plays into this. But in this one, I think it's more interesting because his plan is kind of unraveling before him. And it's interesting because in all the previous Saw films, everything's been like meticulously planned in advance, like to the finest detail. But in this, you get to see something different in which he's not entirely in control, and you get to see him like think on his feet, and like how he weasels his way out of like these situations, basically, like whether it comes down to killing a whole room of people and so on, which he didn't have to do in Saw 5 so much. I think it brings you, it keeps you more tense in this one, I think.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of tension. I think probably the best. It's got some real high highs, but I think, I mean, for example, yeah, when he gets busted like in that forensics room, but I think this has more weaknesses than Saw 5.
Hmm.
Um, I think this is
Please
the
do,
first
please
Saw
do
film
so.
where it starts beginning to feel like they're just tacking things on, like they're tacking on Amanda in there and
Yeah,
for
true.
example, for
And
example,
unnecessarily
Perez. I
post
don't know,
credits.
like there's things which are a bit less effective, and it's the first time you kind of go, okay, they're adding these things in. I mean, I think the fact that you had the whole insurance side plot is like enough. They're just tacking on things, which is a little bit.
Yeah, like the box. Yeah, they've been drawing
Yeah,
out this
got
box
those kind
quite
of
a bit.
the box. Jill has a bit too much to do in this film, which didn't really sell it
The
for me.
giant, yeah, but they had to explain where the giant key came from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then John as well. The flashback of him like being a bit out of character. There's things, and I think
Yeah,
the traps aren't so. I can't. I mean, like I say, you do have the carousel trap, but other than that,
but it's not about necessarily how iconic they are. It's more about
like
the purpose
memorable.
that they serve, because they there's a lot in it.
Yeah.
Because in there's a lot in it, like with the carousel trap, and it's like testing, not just the will to live. It's testing this guy's like how hypocritical he is with
Mm.
his like the chances of living the longest versus what actually matters actually for these people.
I don't know. I still think it's a great Saw film, but I think it can't go first. I can't go. Saw Six is the best Saw film. I
Would
think
you
this
would
would.
you say would you have to put it second then maybe?
Um. No, I don't know. I mean, currently we've got Saw 4 second, and yeah, I think we like these ones because Hoffman's more in them.
Hmm.
I think this could go second though, but I
Hmm.
think in Saw 4 it's like it's got cool like the side. I mean, the two plots going on. So you've got that's the one with Rig, right, where he's chasing like after like Matthews, he's going through his own tests,
Hmm.
and then the plot is like with John as well, like with the autopsy and yeah, all that. Yeah, maybe this could go second because yeah, I like it's got a lot of Hoffman, it's got a lot of Jigsaw, and I like that John Kramer's like it goes personal with this one.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah, and
second
it's
is
got
a
it,
fair
and it's got
ranking
the
for Saw
people who
Six.
you're more invested in seeing the people in the traps. Really, it's not just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the guy
So
from the
should we
Herald.
put Saw Six at second?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is where my negotiating gets into stop it from being third.
Yeah. Okay. So our ranking then is Saw Five. Saw Five is number one. Saw Six is number two. Saw Four is number three. Saw is number four. I'm a bit uncomfortable with having Saw that far down.
It's a good film, but it's
Original.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, none of these films are really bad. That's the thing,
Yeah. That's
right?
true. That's true. That's true.
It's not
Although,
like this isn't
yeah,
like with Batman, where there are some you just should never touch.
yeah, pure trash. Exactly. Yeah. These are all like worth watching. So this has been a bit of a longer episode, but that is our rank and review of Saw 6. Next week we'll be doing Saw 3D. So aka Saw 7, as I prefer to call it. Saw 3D is
Yeah,
like
I never knew it was
first
called
thing
Saw
ever.
3D, but
Yeah. But yeah, been a bit of a longer episode. So, final word from you, Henry.
not really. I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know how to put this, but for all you Americans out there, feels bad to be you.
Yeah, man, it sucks to be American. That's our takeaway from this film. So yeah. Oh, and you know what? It reminds me. There's another film. Is it? Oh, actually, it's Breaking Bad, isn't it? Like none of that would have happened if he had
If
national.
he had the coverage, you know.
There you go.
Well,
Okay.
it's a bit more complicated than that, but I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Okay. Yeah. Whatever. All right. So that's it. So join us next week for Saw 3D. Same bat time, same bat channel.